Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fleet Catch-Up Ramblings. Number 43 now. Yeah, approaching 50. We catch up. I know it's really our catch-up. Also, exciting news. I had a job interview today that came out of nowhere. I might be actually earning the money again. I have no idea how this is going to affect a lot of the things I have planned this year, but I need the money more than I need other things. Yeah, we'll have to see how it affects the Falklands, but hey-ho. That's if I get it. We shall see how we go. Also, it's Ruinon. Hello, Ruinon. Nice to see you.
People have demanded my presence, and thus
Shalom.
answered.
Anyway, so
Whack.
Admiral Wellesley, Insanity 2, asks, if you were the head of the USSR's naval procurement from 1921 to 1953, Stalin really likes you and will not touch you. What would you do to ensure the Red Fleet will be capable of challenging the Western, British, German, French, and Eastern, Japanese, and American powers? Assume you will get the funds you need to build this fleet and infrastructure. Okay. So the first thing I need to do is use the real strength here, which isn't the funding. It's the fact that Stalin really likes me and will not touch me. The first thing I need to do is order him to put a memorandum on touching any of the fucking naval designers or people in charge of the plants that roll plates and forge guns. That is the most important key thing here. If I can do that, I've already saved 10 years of Soviet naval degradation at the stroke of a pen. Secondly, we need to look at where we are. So the first thing we should probably do is start small. So let's start by keeping naval gun manufacturing going by forging 14-inch guns that we can put on railway carriages and send west, because it's 1921, to support Trotsky's wild ride into Poland. Is he going to succeed? No, probably not. But it's basically just to give the fucking gun foundry something to do. Then we need to look at the situation that we find ourselves in. So, where are we in 1921? The first thing we need to bear in mind is that actually, in terms of cruisers, we're actually not too bad. We've still got the we're still constructing the Russian light armored cruisers, which are actually arguably some of the best light armored cruisers being built in this period. So we'll finish them to the full build out of 8 ships.
Cruisers?
The Svetlanas. They are some of the best light armored cruisers being built anywhere in the world at this point.
Well, it's probably because they're the only armored cruiser being built anywhere around the world right now.
Light armored cruiser. What we would come to term light cruiser. Light cruisers.
Light cruiser.
So we're building 4, so we can finish them. They're
Keep it slow and steady.
They're pretty good.
Build up the infrastructure.
29 knots. I might actually I might order one of those every year just to keep something above destroyer size being built. They're not great, but tell you one thing, it basically fucking kicks Germany in the head because that gives us a modern cruiser force, and it also gives us something not too big we can aim to upgrade the Eastern and Northern Fleet yards to actually take without completely breaking the bank. We're not jumping to full battleships here. We're just saying, can you host the Svetlana? And repair it. Or a pair, and then move on from there. The real prize... Oh, well, the real problem is the loss of the Black Sea Fleet in totality. We had a fairly capable Black Sea Fleet, and we bloody lost it when Wrangel nipped off with it and ran off to the Mediterranean, that bloody bastard.
You got time to build that up.
For now.
And to be fair, you don't need a massive force there.
So
I don't think you can
actually finish the Svetlanas.
Why not?
Because I'm just reading up on them. So they use the same engines as the period German cruiser, whereas it's the Brummer class. And by the time war breaks out, the only one turbines are actually delivered are from
Svetlana.
For
Svetlana has
Svetlana.
that.
And they have to get those from the UK.
Yes, and they don't actually get any turbines for the other three. One gets strapped in complete, and the other two get turned into diesel-powered tankers. And Svetlana herself gets turned into Krasny Krim. And yeah,
I don't actually think it's worth building the Svetlanas.
I mean, we don't really have much other choice.
It's less we want the Svetlanas for capability. It's more just keeping the shipyard busy, so that there isn't a.
I mean, ironically enough,
capability.
Can we let Reynolds speak quickly?
There's one critical flaw in Fleet's plan. The instruction to not touch anybody in the shipbuilding logistics train. Russian quality control isn't. You're going to have major issues building up a modern navy if you can't get your quality control under control. Which frankly means you're probably going to have to try and pull in outside help from somewheres.
Well, yes, that's quite true, but this is
because hang on, the people that you can trust don't know enough to audit the production lines. Like the people that you can de facto trust that are in the Russian Communist Party or Soviet Party, whatever they call themselves, are Bolsheviks are not necessarily going to be knowledgeable on large scale quality control. So you're going to have to pull somebody in from outside to do it.
I did say that I was going to not touch the old guard, the pre-Soviet guard, which this question has given me the ability to do.
Yeah,
and does it?
It says
also
really likes me.
What it says is Stalin will not touch you.
Yeah,
so you are immune to scrutiny.
It's also the quality control issues don't come from the Navy or the procurement. It comes from the manufacturing side of things as a result of the 5-year plans.
I am
so unless you think you can change the 5-year plans, you're still going to have those issues.
I am aware of that. However, I would point out that I need to do... You guys are thinking 10, 20 years ahead. I'm still in 1921 to 25. I haven't even gotten to that bit yet.
I'm thinking right fucking now.
Because the problem is, by this point, the Navy's almost written off.
Kind of, but...
Yes,
that's why he's trying to rebuild it.
The problem is trying to rebuild with... Yeah, it's why it makes it... Trying to work with the Svetlanas, I think, is a lost cause.
We can probably get the Admiral Nakhimov, since 2 of them were actually finished by the Russians. So finishing all 4 of them isn't unrealistic, given they finished 2 themselves.
The Svetlanas.
But the Admiral Nakimovs are the cruisers. No, the Admiral Nakimovs come after the Svetlanas. So if we can do the Admiral Nakimovs, and they did, why can't we also do the Svetlanas as well?
So the issue is that they were launched in 1915. They were left incomplete and then commissioned in 1927.
Well, one was commissioned in 27, one was commissioned in 32.
You might, honestly, you would write them off too.
Yeah. No, absolutely not. That's a terrible idea. We'd have no semi-modern cruisers.
If you try and finish them when
these aren't modern,
they're in the early 20s, you run into the issue if you're building ships in the middle of the Russian Civil War.
Yeah. Dragon.
And
these ships, right.
Politely, compared to what the alternatives are in terms of Russian cruisers? These things are fucking space age.
That doesn't mean they're modern cruisers.
I would
They
argue...
are cruisers that are designed almost 10 years before when you get put in office.
And you've got an asset that actually knows how to make a modern light cruiser that's willing to sell you designs, and they're selling you destroyer designs in the late 20s, which is when you're like rebuilding ships,
Yes, but the whole...
which are called the Italians.
Yes, but I would point out that ordering in from abroad does nothing to fix our own domestic problems. It just leaves them on hold.
Yes,
And-
it does. Because most of the Soviet destroyers were built at home to Italian designs. They bought the
And
licensing
That's what we should
and
be
the
starting
tooling
with.
to make them.
I
Build it up from the ground.
I mean, I'm not opposed to still going the Italian route, don't get me wrong, but I am going to push back against at least not finishing the cruises we historically did. If they can finish them historically...
We've
we
got
should
hindsight,
al-
effectively, probably.
Yes.
So, you should know then these cruisers are actually useless to us.
What if... No. They are easily, when finished,
Oh.
the most powerful light cruisers in the Baltic. Bar none. They are more than a match.
Krasny Krim got bullied by destroyers. Romanian destroyers.
Yes, that was in the Black Sea, and those were designs that were 20 years her senior. And also, quite frankly, that's not surprising, given that her primary battery was 4 180s, and yeah, she was always going to get bullied by destroyers, given that was her primary battery,
No,
and she had very little...
Krasny Krim wasn't the 180s.
No, Krasny Krim was the 180s.
No, you're thinking of Krasny Kavkaz.
Yeah, that's a different ship.
And I will also am obligated to point. I am contractually obligated to point out that if you come on, brain, if you are ordering Italian cruisers or French cruisers or whatever foreign national you want to, it's a whole lot easier as part of that buy order to also contract out subject matter experts to come in and unduck your own production chain issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one you'll think of fleet was was the second of the Admiral Nakamovs.
Oh yeah, sorry, I keep getting the two because KK. But anyway, even if she did get bullied by destroyers, I will point out those were modern destroyers of the post-Fubuki type, which the Germans and the Swedes don't possess.
Look, it really doesn't matter how capable the ship is. The most important point is maintaining your shipyard's capability to actually produce a ship.
Then at that
Finishing
point,
a ship that shit is
So,
second to the current overall issue of the Soviet Navy.
I'm looking over the construction of Krasny Krim, which is the spec how they actually finished. And most of the stuff done with that, the shipyard actively closes when she's being built.
the problem is, you're right, you need to rebuild the infrastructure. But the problem is, you've now got a new problem. Because these ships have been sitting for so long, they take 2 extra years of work to get back to a state where they can continue to be built, right?
Yeah.
Build a new cruiser.
No.
Because then you actually can build that cruiser from the ground up in those yards you want to rejuvenate.
The problem that we have is that...
And you're having to spend years getting it back to a position where you can continue building.
Yeah, but the problem with that is that... Well, there's also... No, I don't... I think that kind of misses the forest for the trees. You need to finish these 3 ships. For one thing, it's a massive shot in the arm for propaganda purposes, finishing them. For another, like, we finished what the Imperial Russians couldn't. For another, they can be used as relatively hard run assets for training, because you're not too bothered about wrecking the turbines or the boilers of a modern keel up cruiser. Given that I am going to want to cycle cruise through these 3 ships, I'm probably going to have one in the Northern Fleet, one in the Baltic, and one in the Black Sea. And I'm probably going to want to run cruise through these ships at a rapid rate to expand the officer and trained personnel corps of the Russian fleet. And I'm not going to want to use modern ships for that because they're valuable. I expect them to do things in wartime. I appreciate where you're coming from, Dragon, and I can entirely understand. But for me, personally, I am going to finish these ships because, quite frankly,
Dragon,
they're not taking up yard space that there are other yards we can use to build cruisers. There are other slips that are available to build these new keel up designs. If we have the money, as the question
really.
says, to do
Bruno
this,
wanted to say something, I believe so.
I know. I'm just finishing my point. I'm just finishing my point. There are the slips that are available to do that sort of work, especially if I'm going to, as I suspect I will, build significantly smaller ships than even the the Svetlanas or the Admiral Nakimovs. Ships of about 5,000 tons, based on the whole Italian what are they called?
Condottieri?
That's the one. Principle. Basically because...
Go on, Bruno, before I say something.
Okay, I need to ask Dragon a single question so I can figure out if my point's going to stand here. After resumption, how long did it take them to finish the cruisers we're talking about?
Svetlana, it took 7 years.
No, it took longer than that.
It took 7 years after they resumed work on them.
Yes, for Svetlana, for Krasny Krem.
Okay, Fleet, I understand that that's your personal opinion, that you would rather have these old beater cruisers, but for 7 years to build a cruiser that was already started, you're not starting from a clean keel plate. I would rather just build something with no armor and 1 gun turret if you absolutely must have a dedicated training cruiser. But you're gonna want your engineering and gunnery crews are going to need to be trained on equipment that is within shouting distance of what the main fleet has.
It wasn't 7 years.
Yeah, 7 years seems 7 years start to finish.
So they were paused. They were paused 1917. She was commissioned 1928, being finished in 1927.
Yeah.
Yeah, but work didn't resume until 24. It took 3 years.
They were doing stuff in 22, from what I'm finding.
From what I was reading, after the
don't see
shipyard they were in closed down because of the whole Civil War thing. It took so this is
because she was renamed in 22 as well, where they were starting to look at doing stuff on her.
So
she had bottomed out.
22? Is this she's renaming 25?
To which name exactly?
Because she was
renamed Svetlana to Pontiferna in 22.
Yeah, that's when
it says February 5th, 25.
According to
Profinter.
Yeah, this is the thing.
Right.
There's different dates for both. Either way.
But before we get way too deep in the weeds here, if you're getting foreign help in, and especially if you're ordering from a foreign yard, I don't see it taking any longer than 4 years for you to get a modern export cruiser in your fleet. From cutting steel to here are the keys. And I think you could probably build a modern cruiser to a hybrid Russo-Italian design or Russo-French design within 5 from finalized plans to commissioned.
And again, this is a design from 1930. Sorry, I thought you finished. Go on.
If you are going to bring in a design that is already on the trailing edge of tech when it's trailing to center edge of tech when it was finalized.
No, they were the Bees
Seven-
Lees when they were finalized. They were well ahead of.
They weren't.
They were actually better than the British Town class.
That's
They
that's
weren't.
why I
They
said
mount guns
that,
in casemate.
They had more
That's why-
guns, and they were faster, and they were better.
Go on,
That's-
Rune,
protected.
before I retaliate. My
That-
point. Go on.
that-
So finish up.
that's why I said trailing to center. I gave some grace. You're now going to be putting in more time than it would take you to build from a extant export design for hardware that is not going to be in the same design lineage as anything that you're going to import in if you do decide to import stuff in, or is going to be several generations behind what you're going to build of domestic designs. It's just even as training assets, they're not good assets to spend almost as much time, and from the sound of it, possibly slightly more, to go from even just a basic bare bones clean sheet design, cut steel, and start from there.
Yeah, and just
But
before
wait,
Dragon
I
goes on,
I cede the floor.
yeah, just before Dragon goes on, I'll quickly just point out that from what I'm reading, the yards that they're being built at ceased production because of the Civil War
Yes, you've said that a few
and the
times now.
mobilization of workers for the Civil War.
Mhm.
And they basically have to retrain and rebuild the yards because the yards fall into ruin in the Civil War. So you're not getting that continuous workup of industry that you get from building them, because the yards cease to exist for several years.
So, to compare the Svetlanas or the Admiral Nakimovs to the towns is a false comparison. The Svetlanas are laid down 1913. The towns are laid down 1909. That's 4 years of development difference. Also, no, the Svetlanas don't have a better armor because they're using 5.1-inch guns. They've got 15 of them, but 6 of them are on casemate, 3 per side. So, of limited use.
Not really.
Towns, yes, this was a thing. Considering their position of their secondaries, it's known they got swamped easily.
Mm,
The same way that their rear guns on the decks also usually got washed. In particular, they're also, once again, 5-inch guns. Say versus the towns, which, especially if you go off the Weymouths, also laid down 1909, are using 6-inch guns
You
and are much
can't.
better.
The Russian 130 is a direct equivalent to 6-inch of the
It's
period.
not.
It is.
It's got the same rate of fire as a 6-inch.
And the same range.
And less
Yeah,
penetrating
but
power
the showing-
capability.
Showing the bursting charge are going to be a lot less on a 5-inch versus a 6-inch.
5.1 technically, but
Oh,
Yeah, the
whoop-de-doo, it's an
1/3,
extra tenth of an inch.
But either way, like, they are not equivalent.
They're also heavier. A lot heavier.
I mean, you
Well, yeah, but she's faster.
yeah, they're fast.
She is definitely.
I mean,
I'll say, yeah, she is definitely faster. But again, this is why I'm saying saying, oh well, they're just better towns isn't correct because
That's not what I
they're 4
said.
years.
I said they were better than, not better towns.
Also, then, if you want to go with a comparison, though, what we're actually more looking at is
The Arethuses of 1912.
no, not that one.
Those
Where
are
is it?
not very comparable. When
No, not that one. Why is it? doing
Krasny
such
Krim
good work? You know what,
outweighs, say, Arethusa by like 2 times.
I think technically, actually, the closer equivalent would actually be the C-class cruiser.
Yes, it would be. And
And no, they're not better than C-class cruisers.
they absolutely are. Even the ones with all 6-inch guns. They're faster, they're more heavily armed.
They're not.
They're
They're
better
the same
protected.
speed.
No, the
C-class cruisers do 29.5 knots.
No, they don't. They do 28.5.
Yes, they do.
No, 28.5. I'm looking at it right here.
Ah, yes,
See,
0.5
quite
knots makes
variant.
much of a difference.
Which
One knot.
variant? Which variant? Because if you look at the Caledon class, they do 29. If you look at the Ceres class, they do 29.5.
Yep.
If you look at the Carlisle class, they do 29.
It's on is it on Calliope that do 28?
Yeah.
The first sets.
I think it's technically only. I think it's actually the Carolines which do
The Carolines
28.5.
are 28.5.
So no, and
Calliope
that
does 28.
so
The only ones that come close to matching a Svetlana are the Ceres and the Carlisles. They are slightly faster. I
and
will
the
admit.
Caledons.
Oh yeah, the Caledons as well. Sorry, I missed those.
And the
buggers.
Centaurs.
Do they have the full? Yes, they
Yeah,
do
they have
the
the
full.
full set of 5.
Which is like I said, they're fairly close. And to be fair, there are a lot more of them, so arguably they are, and they're probably
Yes.
better sea boats.
But also they can get most of their guns on target. In terms of actual firepower, yeah, you can boast, oh, the Svetlana has 15 guns,
Right.
but you can only bring half of them to bear.
That's still an equivalent broadside throw weight compared to a C class, if not more.
But she's got worse guns.
Yeah, she's got 5-inch guns.
No, I said broadside throw weight, not broadside number of guns.
But no, her overall though, her gun she doesn't have the same level of throw weight though.
No, she does. She can bring more guns to bear on a broadside, but the C class has heavier guns. Therefore,
okay.
therefore the throw weight is roughly equivalent.
But overall though, a 5-inch has much more difficulty penetrating armor than a 6-inch does of these types. Either way,
At that
the Svetlana.
that point,
So go on, Ron.
at that point, it comes down to fire control because if you can hose down the opponent, the lesser throw weight's not going to matter as much.
And considering you're also having to worry about 3 of your guns being in casemate,
And then, so consider that Krasny Krim entered service in 1928. Meaning her contemporary when she's in service, if you're being polite, is the E class.
Except it isn't.
Except it is.
No,
The E
because
class entered service 2 years before.
their contemporaries are not British, French, or Japanese cruisers. Their contemporaries are whatever the Germans are running around with, whatever the Swedes have, and the chronic mess that is the Turkish Navy.
Give me if I'm wrong, but that means they're contemporary with Nuremberg.
no, not quite anymore. Emden would be a better one. The KMS Emden in particular, which was ordered 21, launched 25, so she's even 3 years earlier, and she's got 8 150s.
I don't know. So she entered service in 28. A year later, the Königsbergs enter service.
Do the Königsbergs come back?
Yeah, they
No,
entered
they
service
do.
in
Which, while the
1929.
Königsbergs are indeed a problem, but the fact that if you want to have them in the Baltic where they actually didn't have truly awful issues, just
No, they did.
semi-awful issues,
It's the fact that
they've still
They're-
got 9 guns and definitely meet your speed. Again, yes, they've definitely got problems, but
I
a
still,
Svetlana's not a good comparison. You should just build a new ship.
I
Yeah.
still disagree. I still think these ships should be finished.
no, because you don't get anything from finishing them. That's
You-
not
You
In
keep
You're
the
not, even
yards
getting,
going.
you're not even getting political stuff.
You keep the yards
no,
going.
because
But
no, because
you
the
just give them a
yards
new
ceased anyway.
contract.
That's what I just pointed out.
Hmm.
The yards ceased in the Russian Civil War because all the workers get sent off to die in the Civil War.
Well, yes, that's true, but it's
The
easier
yards close and they have to start from scratch again.
So at that, but
So you
also,
don't get
Go.
anything from continuing to build them.
it's easier to go through the motions to restart the ships, even if it takes a while, than it is to build new ships.
when you no longer have enough components for most of them, and you're having to scramble all of them together to finish one. It's not great. Also, again, while you can do so, you arguably get more out of just building a new cruiser in terms of teaching them how to build a new ship. Because now you're starting from the ground zero of, this is how we build a ship. This is how you lay the keel. This is where you move up to this. Instead of, well, right, this ship's been sitting here hulked for, we'll say 4 years, because they were stopped in 1917. So we'll be generous and say only 4 years. That's 4 years where they've been unmaintained and partially complete. So you're not actually learning the skills of building a ship up from the ground up. You're learning, how do we take a ship that is being unmaintained and unfinished to build from there? You're not actually learning the initial parts of shipbuilding, are you?
Well, we can get that from destroyers. We don't need...
Oh no, please,
no,
why'd you
not the
say
same.
that?
No,
Why'd
you
you
can't.
say that?
Because cruisers and destroyers are quite different.
Yes, they have similarities. You are correct. There are similarities in cruiser construction versus destroyer construction. However, there are enough differences where they don't translate one to one. Also, when you even if you took all of those shipyard work crews and they didn't die and they were all able to go to work as soon as the Bolsheviks cement their power, you're still going to have a lot of, okay, what the hell were we doing 4 years ago? Moments, and they're going to have to relearn how to build the ships that they were building as they're building them. And if they have to relearn how to build a boat, they might as well relearn how to build a boat on a new boat. Then you get a new boat.
The risk.
I understand where you're coming from, Fleet.
The risk of things going wrong with these new cruisers is too high. The Svetlanas and the Admiral Nakarovs, despite their obsolescence, were reliable, sturdy ships. They didn't have many, if any, mechanical issues or stability problems.
It took 2 years from when they officially stated this ship is to complete to get it to this ship's functional.
Yeah.
2 years from we have finished the ship, it is ready to be delivered, to we can actually use the ship. That speaks of some pretty big issues, personally.
Well, they aren't listed, so I can't speculate on them.
You're right, admitting that. But the fact it stated it took 2 further years from completion to actually being serviceable.
I don't like the idea. It just...
Because if you want, you can even keep the guns.
It's too risky. It's too risky.
But Fleet, okay, Fleet.
See why?
Why is it so? Okay, so you're gonna have all this. You're gonna have all these, frankly, fuck ups as you try to spin up a new shipyard construction crew, right?
Yep.
So you're going to have a certain percentage of fuck-ups no matter what you do. Where is all of this additional risk on coming in on a new design or a foreign export design? And with that foreign export design, you're going to be buying in the relevant subject matter experts to oversee things. Where is all of this additional risk coming in?
It's not so much that there's additional risk, it's more there are going to be fuck-ups. I'd rather those fuck-ups happen to these ships rather than... And we get the worst of them out of the way on these vessels, rather than having them on the first of our new generation of cruisers, leaving me with a lemon that doesn't fucking work, like the Königsbergs.
Yeah, but you're buying up... Instead of getting 80%, 90%, or at worst 110% fuck-ups, you're getting 125% fuck-ups. Because the first generation of your new generation, the first batch of your next generation cruiser are going to have fuck-ups.
Yeah.
Also,
So you're going to wind up paying for the same fuck-ups twice across 2 different classes of cruisers.
All right, okay.
Also,
All right,
well,
okay.
actually, I've also just got another quick one that might actually be interesting. Give me a sec.
Can I...
Let Toxo go
it's a
first, because she was in line.
Yeah, so this was like, yes, they would work against Nuremberg, but from what I'm reading, The Les pigs are the ones that have these significant structural and seakeeping issues. The issue
both-
is that the Königsbergs, from what I'm reading, don't.
No, I
They did.
thought it was the other way around. The Königsbergs were the worst of it, and the Leipzigs were at least somewhat usable.
Improvements. Yeah.
Yeah, but
they
it was
came after.
improvements that added. So the Königsbergs had stability issues. They were moved top way and they fixed most of it. But the Les pigs retained their issues
The what?
because they couldn't
what?
get rid of top way.
Leipzig.
Leipzig.
I was about to like, what? The Les. Okay, can we officially call them the,
The
Les
Les
pigs?
pig.
Call them the Les pigs from now on. Yeah, I love it. Well done, Fonso.
Yeah,
Call them the
Laser pig
Les
class?
pig, the Les pigs. Please let there be no one from Leipzig who is
So,
listening.
and by the time you're looking at actually fighting the Königsbergs, they're okay. I won't want to take them out to the North Sea, but they are functional cruisers.
I have just-
With
But-
15-centimeter guns.
So-
I have
also-
just come up with a way to square the circle, if you'll let me. Before we
Well, give me a second to
go
explain
round
my
in
point
circles
quickly first,
again.
because it's why you don't. Another reason why you don't want people to train on ships half built.
Yeah.
The ships that were underway being half built are half built, which means the lessons which were taught, the lessons that they used to build them that way, which might be really bad lessons for people to learn. Your new crews are going to be going, oh, so that's how you do it.
All right. That's
Which
fair
is
enough.
not a way you want
That's-
people to
that's not a
learn.
bad thing. All right, I tell you what. We'll square the circle. We will scrap all but one of the Svetlanas and the Admiral Nakimovs. The reason for this is that I do still want to finish Krasny Kavkaz for one specific reason. I want to finish her because she gets the 180s, and I want to use her specifically as a test bed for the 180s and the mountings they're in. Basically, to then scale that mounting up to be a twin gun for a successor. Basically.
Oh, you do not want to do that. You do not want to do
Not a smart idea.
that.
Right, not a good idea. Because they already looked at Kravnikaz and went, oh, well, we can stick twin 180s on you.
Yeah, no, they couldn't. They could only get the singles.
They couldn't. But so then they were stuck with singles, which did not give them the same lessons they needed to know.
Yeah, and those guns are going to be used on the Kirov class.
Well, we're not gonna build. We're not gonna build the Kirovs, quite frankly. That's one ship I am not building.
A
Uh,
modified,
the Kirovs are perfectly fine.
no, they're not.
They're not, they're
Modified
terrible.
Kirovs would be the big problem. With the
Yeah, no.
Kirovs, right?
All right.
The big problem with the Kirovs is the fact that they have the triple turrets, and they were triple turrets built to the size of twin turrets
All right,
Yeah,
Dragon.
you
I
can
think
have
a
twin
single
turrets,
all
hour
right,
fine.
all right, Dragon.
with a single ammo
Let
elevator.
me rework that. Let's use her as a test bed for twins for 152 twins. Let's
The
go
problem is you
with
can't-
let's
oh,
go with
152,
let's go
sorry,
yeah, let's go with your idea for the new keel up cruisers of reusing the 130s to save cost and time. So the new cruisers will have
Why?
twins.
Basically, he's got the guns.
uh,
So if you're just
yeah.
trying to desperately get a ship or two out, the
And I am
130s,
building
while
them
I
from the
don't
keel
like
up.
them, you've got them sitting in good condition in the shed.
I can sort of build
Yeah,
a mini.
but yeah, okay.
I can sort of build
Okay,
a
just
mini.
hear me out quickly. Hear me out. Why would you use the 130s, the 5.1 inch, when you've already got in storage from the Tsarist era, the early version, the 180s?
Big,
Because you don't have those.
yeah, and I also don't want.
From
the-
what I'm reading of Kravnik Kavkaz, they did by the early
Nope.
20s.
Nope. Right. So the one you're thinking of, Foxo, is designed 1929.
Yeah, these are the guns that Krasny Kavaz carries are the exact same guns, ironically enough, on fairly similar mounts that are carried by the 180mm rotating railway guns that were built at the same time.
Because remember, Krasny-Kazov was restarted 1927. They then realized they couldn't fit the twin 8-inch gun, so dropped to single, and the guns were officially designed as of 1929.
It's also worth
Like,
pointing.
so you can't use those guns.
It's also worth pointing out that I am planning to. These new cruisers are going to be. The first batch of 2 will be very conservative based on the Condottieri class with 8 130s. and maybe like a quartet of single 3-inch AA, maybe some machine guns. And the next set will be that design stretched to 10 guns in 5 twins.
Yeah, because
Basically, I'm sticking with the twin as a concept for now because it's something the Russians are familiar with. And I'm saving my triples for restarting capital ship construction because it's easier to go, okay, we've built a triple this big. Let's gradually work downwards.
other way around.
Oh.
Technically. So, yeah, there's designs for the Dreadnoughts with triple 30, with triple 12s, which came quite quickly. But cruiser twin turrets, from what I was twin and triple turrets actually come a bit earlier, but basically the main reason you don't do it is why? Why do you need a triple turret on a cruiser? Why do you need a twin on most cruisers? The answer is twins are actually just amazing, but the sort of entrenched doctrine of, oh, well, you have guns on both sides.
Yeah, it takes until Washington completely redresses the paradigm of what a cruiser is.
Because when I was talking about, there was considerations for the C-class cruiser to have twin turrets.
And I mean, you do see twins on larger, armoured and protected first-class cruisers, but they're not really...
There's even a twin turret on the Towns.
Yeah.
As of 1910, they tested a experimental twin 6-inch.
Yeah.
And it worked pretty well. So you actually probably can do triples for a cruiser a bit more easily than a battleship.
I'm just starting with twins for now.
Yeah, no, I agree, but
and
just
especially
potentially you might want to look into experimental cruiser then battleship.
You're gonna have, so just seeing as this question is, it is a long one, but sod it, I may as well do it properly. So cruisers, you're gonna have 2 lines. You're gonna have the condottieri, which will be 1 line, and eventually, after about 2 or 3 batches, I am gonna try and turn them into destroyers, basically. So get rid of 1 turret, downscale them slightly, but use that proven design to start building large modern destroyers, because I'm not bound by Washington. I don't need to build smaller destroyers. And the other cruiser line will start with, but that cruiser line of small cruisers will feed into the other one, which is after we finish Krasny Kavaz, her experience with her twin 152s will feed into a new and with what's been learned from the small condottieris, that will feed into a new class of Soviet 6-inch cruiser. Although it's worth pointing,
the need for these smaller cruisers.
They are purely there to gain experience. That's the whole point.
What I'm thinking is, if you're not a party to the Washington Naval Treaty, you're already looking at 7.1 to 7.9 inch guns.
Why?
Since you're not a party to the treaty, and you're not a party to the definitions of heavy cruiser, why wouldn't you look at doing a 7-inch gun, kind of like a Soviet Hawkins-esque ship?
Because you don't want to use 7 for that.
And do what the British wanted to do for. But yes,
to be fair, you still want to avoid doing anything that might attract the attention of other nations, being like, maybe we should include you in the next treaty.
Well, no, I think if the Soviets, keep in mind, if the Soviets build up too much, France, Germany, and Britain leave, and they just go, nope, things have changed. We can't keep agreeing to this treaty, even to Washington. Because if the Soviets start building, the thing is, if the Soviets start building battleships at any point in the 20s, in my opinion, those powers will go, we need to reconsider this.
There is no physical way the Soviet Union is building anything that large in the 20s.
Probably not, but if they even try to. And if it happens in the 30s, again, those navies just go no.
Yes.
So,
if it's my plan, I want to lay down some funny capital ships by like 34 to start fucking around with.
Because in my opinion,
well, that's getting ahead of myself, but yeah.
what I think makes sense is building a few of these modern cruisers when fleet gets in, with the 5-inch guns from the ships that we've cancelled. That gives you the basis to work up along. Then you start. Then as soon as we can, use the 180s and build, and as Fox has suggested, possibly a 3 or 4 twin 180 design. But then, then we want to abandon the 5 inches, the cruiser caliber gun. What we can use those old cruisers for later, though, is, depending on how they're designed, you could probably refit them in the 30s to a decent AA cruiser.
Basically, retain the
interesting.
general purpose cruiser and retain the scout cruiser with the 5-inch.
I wouldn't even say retain
more-
scout cruisers.
Because
I'm more interested in.
in the period of the 6-inch cruise, these things ain't going to be full light cruisers. They've
I'm
got
more
5-inch
interested in why we're insisting on 7-inch cruisers.
Just because the Russians historically developed a 180mm gun.
Yeah,
And-
because they realized they couldn't fit the 8-inch.
Now,
And it's also a development of a gun they already
But if you're
had.
building a brand new ship, then why not just stick with the original plan and using 8-inch?
now, if you get to the
If-
30s, you get some interesting stuff.
Because that was the entire point about what was that stupid test ship with the singles again?
Krasny Kazav. And
Yeah,
she was actually
were-
she was intended for twins. But she only
Twin
got singles.
8s. The original plan was twin 8s. They were planning to use the old 1905 8-inch in a twin mount. That's when that doesn't fit. That's when they start bottlenecking everything down and just fitting a new liner to the barrel and squeezing it down to 180 in a single mount. But the original plan was for an 8-inch cruiser
Because
or an 8-inch turret.
problem with it going 8-inch is, say, if you go 6 or 8-inch, then the other navies are going to look at you and go, no.
I mean, I don't think so. If everybody's building 8-inch and you just decide to build an 8-inch cruiser, I don't see an issue with that. The
You start
other
worrying the other
people's
navies.
I don't know. The other navy is still going to look at a 7-inch cruiser and being like, "That's still a 7-inch gun." I don't see enough
Keep
of
in
a
mind they
difference.
got those 30. Keep in mind they got those 180s that actually worked properly in the mid 30s with the Kirovs. So that was a fair bit different time period because they weren't concerned when Krasny Kazav was first built. You're right, but if you're late 20s building 8-inch guns, that gets people's attention.
I'm sorry. I still don't see a difference between 8-inch and 7-inch guns.
It more psychological than actually realistic is the answer. Because right, so say the Italians have their Trento class of 4 twin 8-inch and 25, finished in 29 basically, as the last ones. If you're also doing that, all of a sudden the Italians start going, "Oh, I've got to deal with the French and the now Soviets."
Yeah, but that
You can try and they will.
Yeah.
A 7
I don't-
is bad, but an 8-inch is the same as our modern ships. A 7-inch isn't.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't think that's how that works.
Well, remember the
It's-
British
it's
team.
so-
Remember the British said the 7.5 was outdated.
Yeah.
Arguably about that, but either way,
But
if the Brit-
it's
go on,
kind
Fox.
it's also somewhat of. So you'll be building these for the Baltic because that's the place you actually need cruisers like this in this period. And if you start building 8-inch cruisers, the Germans are going to get a very
Apologies,
different
folks.
deal out of the Anglo-German naval agreement.
So where did we all get to
Yeah,
after I
that's
left?
good.
Because
Get the Germans spend more money on their navy.
What were we talking
That's less.
about?
That's
We're
that's
discussing
less
about-
money to
we're
the
discussing the idea of
Wehrmacht.
if the Soviets do what the differences are internationally between a Soviet 8 7-inch gun cruiser and a Soviet 8-inch gun cruiser,
Well,
and how
the
actually they
reason-
do have a multiple knock-on effects.
building an 8-inch
depending
gun
on the
cruiser
difference.
is building an 8-inch gun cruiser is viable. Soviet 8, the
That's,
Soviet,
it's not a problem with viable.
yeah, the Soviet. Like, I mean, if we can,
They're
like-
arguing about foreign
That-
reaction.
If the
Uh,
Soviets start building 8-inch armed ships, nations will start reacting because again, Britain came to Washington saying 7.5 is outdated for a heavy cruiser, or this
well,
sort of
a
new
cruiser,
right?
yeah, yeah.
This heavy fleet cruiser.
Mhm.
So
I wouldn't
nations
say
go,
the
"Oh,
treaty.
a ship with a 7-inch gun is not as concerning as a ship with an 8-inch gun."
I think, but that's
Uh,
just Britain's standpoint, though.
I would,
Yeah,
I would,
but
I would.
it-
make-
There
Why
are
would- then the
definitely
question is, why
other
did no
nations that
nation go for a
probably
7
will
or
react.
7.5?
I would make the argument that it fundamentally doesn't matter whether the Russian ships have 7 or 8-inch guns. What's going to matter is how many there are. Because
Well, say there's- say there's
if it's like 4, the reaction is the same as the reaction when the Ganguts came out of their rebuilds. Okay, the Russians have
Oh,
3.
Wait a
The
minute.
Russians have. Would you
No.
let me finish?
Go on.
Yes, let him finish so he can dig the hole deeper, and then I'm going to jump in and pile drive him to the bedrock.
And you're not, because you're not gonna have a pole to stand on anyway.
Watch
The-
me.
The reaction will be the same. Okay, the Russians have 3 battleships of semi-modern quantity, but our cruisers are generally.
Let him finish. Let him finish.
But our
Let him dig his
battleships,
hole.
but our battleships
I don't want to dig his grave.
are generally better, and 9 times out of 10 will win basically any fight we fight. And here the reactions will be the same, especially given the cruisers given that this is my scenario, I will be building. I won't be building anything with more than 8 guns. And at that point, I'm going to be looking at that and going, the powers are going to go, okay, yes, the Russians have 4 8-inch cruisers. Okay, they can put them in the Baltic, the Black Sea, the Northern Fleet, the Pacific Fleet. And, that's something we have to consider when we're dealing with the Russians, but I'd rate, like, just going through the major powers, I'd rate a Macau, I'd rate a Miyako, I'd rate a
Wait,
New
what?
Orleans, I'd rate a town, a county, to beat one in a stand-up fight, and that will probably be the reaction. If you're looking at the mid-30s and the Russians are well on their way to a proper blue water navy, then the reaction will be very different indeed. But if it's just 4 ships, the reaction will be fairly similar to when the Russians recommissioned their battleships after rebuilding them. Okay, they've got 3 battleships now. That doesn't really matter. It's something to think about, but it's nothing we have to worry about.
Okay, Foxo sounds like she's
I
getting
think
ready
Runon,
to
you've
either
installed a full
Yep.
hole.
yeah. All right. So I'm just going to say one thing that you all missed when you were talking about foreign nation interactions. It's this little branched island that sits to the right of the map. That when you look at it in the Pacific Ocean called Japan.
I didn't.
And I have a gut feeling that the second it looks like there's any competent naval construction going on in Russia, the Japanese Navy is going to start screaming at the Diet for all of the money and start building.
I'm
So,
going
right.
to
Treaties
Well-
be damned.
So, following along from Runon, maybe not quite as much, but actually, so say the Soviets build 4 twin 8-inch cruisers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well done, you've just doubled the number of heavy cruisers Italy has.
Mm.
If these are starting to be built late 30s.
Well,
Well, not late 30s, sorry, late 20s. Sorry. Because
why have
they
we doubled
lay
the
down
number of
two-
cruisers the
because
Italians have?
the Italian, I said heavy cruisers.
Yes.
The Italians have 2 Trentos under construction, and that was
Yes.
deemed sufficient.
Okay. Okay.
You've now just
why-
put 4 new. You've now got 4 Soviet heavy cruisers possibly on the other side, and they're already looking at the French and the British. They don't have
I-
enough anymore.
I-
Even if they're
I-
and then 4 more Zaras, you're bringing up their heavy cruisers.
I,
That's 6.
I just.
You
I-
and
I-
remember,
what
the
are you-
French
what are you on-
actively use the
What
Soviet.
are
The
you
French
on
and Italian.
about?
Right.
I don't understand.
Let me
what-
finish, and I'll tell you.
I don't even know where you started.
Yes, you do. Because I
To
explicitly
be
laid it
fair,
out.
we did go from Japan is going to have a crash out and crash
To
bill.
Italy and France are having a crash out.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
remember,
okay.
France and Italy both stated in Washington they want to be able to outmatch the Soviets. So does the Britain. The British also don't want the Soviets building up much. The reason why this all works is the Soviets were considered basically a dead entity, right, navally, when Washington's first signed. You're now 5 years into Washington. And all of a sudden, the Soviets are being a lot more competent. They've laid down new light cruisers. They're starting to get their shipyards working. They've laid down heavy cruisers. They have laid down twice as many heavy cruisers as Italy has.
When are they laying down these heavy cruisers?
I would assume, going off what you were saying, you're laying these heavy cruisers down probably sometime around 27, 28.
Oh God, no! Jesus, no, bloody hell, Jesus, no, no.
Then what?
No.
Then you've kind of lost the point of building a heavy cruiser.
Well,
Because again, the guns that we're talking about are meant for the 20s. If you're waiting till the 30s, then why are we bothering with heavy cruisers?
that was gonna be my question.
Because you said earlier about a 7 or 8-inch gun cruiser.
Well, yeah, because you guys we were on about one. There's a reason
Mhm.
why.
Okay.
There's a reason why I revised. There's a reason why I revised Krasny Kavaz to 8 6-inch. And,
Yes, and then you said about still doing a
you
continuation.
got confused.
and
Yeah.
then,
I'm
and
the one
then-
that no, you got confused. I'm the one that brought up why wouldn't you build a 7 or 8-inch cruiser? Because you're not a signatory of the Washington Naval Treaties. Therefore, you are not bound to the definition of light and heavy cruisers. And until you get to the late 30s, the 7.5 to 8-inch gun is significantly more effective than 6-inch gun.
the
People
defin-
only built 6-inch cruisers because that was what was defined by treaty.
no.
If you're building a general purpose cruiser, which is kind of what the heavy cruisers were supposed to be, why would you build a 6-inch cruiser if you're not bound to the 6-inch gun?
The 6-inch cruiser was a non-entity apart from basically the British and the French pre-London, because the light and heavy cruiser didn't exist until London. Secondly, even with bringing in outside help, I'm still aware I am dealing with Soviet Russia here. I don't want to even fire the starting gun on larger light cruisers until I've got Krasny Kavaz in service and the 6-inch mounts proven and reliable. And with a few tranches of those condottieri under my belt and in service to prove that we can build semi-large units with modern turbines and have them be reliable. I don't even want to start thinking about capital ships until the mid-30s. Apart from maybe, possibly, if she can be salvaged, maybe finish doing something with Ismail, but I've no idea what I do with her.
Okay.
Also,
Because
give me a sec, Fox. I think this is. Do we want to move on? Because so far, it has been an hour.
Went through halfway through a question.
Before we move on, though, can I just raise an elephant in the room?
Yes.
Because Fleet tried to compare the reaction to the Soviets building a series of modern cruisers to them bringing the Ganguts back into service in the late 20s.
Was it late 20s? I thought Gangan rebuild was much later than that.
It
Early
was.
30s, wasn't it?
Yeah, but they started in the late 20s. The world didn't give a damn about the Gangers because the Gangers were 12-inch dreadnoughts. When everyone else was running around or building 15-inch battleships. The Gangers weren't considered a threat. Why nobody cared?
That's a
Because, I'm sorry, but a Ganget tries to start a fight with a Scharnhorst, it gets backed.
no.
A Ganget tries to start a fight with a QE, it gets backed.
A Sharnos versus
Uh,
a Ganga is a 50-50 fight. Always has been.
No,
Always
it's
will
not.
be. Yes, it is.
One's protected from one's guns, one
Neither
isn't.
are protected from the other's guns.
Scharnhorst is protected from 14-inch guns. Are you going to try and tell me that the 12-inch guns on the Gangets are superior to the Vickers 14-inch guns on the KGVs?
Given the penetration characteristics and ballistics of those
Please,
Russian 12-inch
I-
guns. I'm sorry,
You're
I'm sorry,
a fucking
Sorry,
joke today.
sorry. You said the Vickers 14-inch, and then I didn't hear the KGV. But yeah, no, not the KGV's
The
guns.
ones are KGVs. And Scharnhorsts were considered to be resistant to those. So yes, they are protected from the 12-inch, legacy 12-inch.
Also, to mention it, just to clarify, the Gangut started their refits in 28.
So one, you can't compare the construction of a modern cruiser force to a we got our 12-inch or 12-inch dreadnoughts working again.
Yeah, I think you are vastly underselling the reaction to the Gangets and vastly overselling the reaction to 4 8-inch cruisers appearing, because they are 4 8-inch cruisers. It's not like they have 4 8-inch cruisers in every single Russian fleet. No, they have 4 8-inch cruisers split between 4 different oceans. If they concentrate them in the Baltics, the major powers don't care, because that's the Germans' problem. If they concentrate them in the Northern Fleet, good fucking luck getting them out half the fucking year. If they're in the Black Sea, well, good luck getting past Turkey. If they're in the Pacific, the Japanese might be mildly concerned, but that's still a force they can just drop carrier aviation on and remove from existence in a matter of minutes. This is that's why I was comparing it. The great powers are going to go, oh, the Russians have 4 modern 8-inch cruisers. Okay, big whoop.
But it's not, though. It's the implication of they're building fast modern cruisers compared to they've managed to slapdash some old dreadnoughts together that they didn't even build themselves. That's a different implication.
I'm sorry, they did build the Gangets themselves. What are you smoking?
Technically, they didn't. They're not the same government.
Yep, they inherited the Gangets from the Tsarist government. And everyone who made the Gangets was
admittedly,
fucking dead.
That's a bit it's a little bit pedantic, I have to say, but she is technically correct.
Technically.
That because the people who built them are not around anymore. That it's not the same government. It's technically not even considered the same country.
Right. Compared to the implication of, oh,
But yeah.
they've just built 4 modern fast surface combatants. And they're probably going to start making significantly more now they can do it. Compared to, they got the old
Or this
old
show,
working.
or even that, just it shows they can do this now. So they are something that we actually have to consider. Anyway, shall we move on?
Yes. 1981. With the scout cruisers rapidly losing out to the destroyer leader and the destroyer, what other types of ships were a bit pointless in hindsight? Well, the scout cruisers weren't pointless. They had a role to fulfill, but the advance of technology left them behind. I'm struggling to actually think of any. I'm struggling to actually think of any naval vessel that served in quantities larger than 1 to 2 that was actually pointless. The only vessel I can think of that was utterly pointless and even at the time was a bad idea was the torpedo ram. The dedicated, lightly armed torpedo ram. Even at the time, they were a dubious idea.
Yeah, I
To be
don't.
fair, technology was growing so fast at that point.
Yeah.
Also, a scout
Nobody
cruiser-
knew.
Yeah, this question just doesn't work. Because I agree with Fleet. Scout cruisers didn't rapidly lose out because
They had a good 10-year
out.
ish run, didn't they?
Yeah, like even
Let
say
him
we go,
finish, please.
so say we go off the British destroyer leaders, which we can I would like to think all agree that they're pretty decent vessels. They're not bad. They're not amazing. They're good for their time. They had a much shorter range than the cruisers did at the point, and they had trouble maintaining the same speeds at cruise the cruisers did.
I think
The
there
Scout
needs
cruiser
to be some
doesn't lose out.
identification to what scout cruisers are.
Yeah, like that's why I'm looking at scout cruisers as stuff like you've got the initial ones which were doing 25 knots. You then see the ones where they start doing 28-ish. The Omahas
Yeah.
are potentially, you could argue, maybe they were a bit redundant, but I think that's just because I think the Omahas could have been better in role if they were built designed slightly differently.
They were the last. They were a natural.
They were still the last of it, but
They were a natural U.S. response given U.S. experiences in the Great War.
I would argue it's Congress being utter assholes to the Navy, and the Navy going, well, we don't want this, but we'll take whatever we can get.
I'm
We
just
need
saying,
escorts. We
I
need
don't
screens.
like-
We need scouts.
don't-
God help us.
Give us something, please.
Okay.
This
I'm
is a
just saying,
design
I don't want
project.
like making some weird ass comparison between like an adventure class from like 1909 and a modern World War II destroyer leader because
Yeah, like, that's
yeah,
one thing.
okay, that's like a interesting comparison, but that's not
Yeah.
relevant
Well,
whatsoever.
I
Actually,
would like to throw a hat in the ring
Hmm?
for one that actually could fit the criteria.
Go on.
The Type 1936A destroyer. Those are
Has
the
it-
ones with the
What,
4
150s?
6-inch guns. And I think putting the 4 6-inch gun destroyers, they were pointless.
They weren't pointless. They had a reason to exist. Unfortunately, they were. You shouldn't put
And-
those guns on a destroyer that lightly built. They were designed.
And to be
able
fair,
wear.
those can be very easily fixed by just throwing out the guns and putting on smaller guns.
Yes.
And
Yeah, but-
suddenly you have a somewhat usable destroyer.
Yeah, but they never did.
Yeah, but that's just because Germany is too busy with other things.
And it's as designed, compared to what the Germans had built previously, they're the closest thing you could say to being pointless and actually being built in Sig service. Because compared to quite literally the Type 1936B destroyer, who goes back down to 5 single 5-inch. They were very much they didn't have a point because they immediately went back to the 5-inch. I think
No,
that's
'cause
the
they-
closest
no, 'cause they
answer
keep
you
looking
could
at
give
six
to
and-
the question.
They keep looking at 6 and but yeah, like I just don't think the question's accurate.
There's also super cruisers, I guess.
Even then, they were an
But,
outgrowth
like-
in response to a role, and they were arguably again they were as I have said before, and I'm known for saying, Alaska and ships like her are one endpoint / outgrowth of the Washington Treaty era cruiser. The other is ships like Des Moines.
Right. No, I actually will. I will actually argue the Alaskas were kind of pointless
Before I
at
do
the
this,
end.
Dragon, I need to just quick thing. With pointless, are we defining that it as the ship didn't have a use case, or the ships were pointless functionally because that use case was bullshit?
I would go with the latter. Basically, for whatever they were built for, whatever reason, no matter how smart it might have been at the time, as soon as the case of well, now that we've done so, or if they were designed incorrectly as well. On top of that, like
So
so stuff
ships.
like USS Volcano, is it? Was a bad, just a straight up. This was a pointless idea.
I would like to throw in the Inflexibles into that ring then.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're pointless because they did help with development, whereas stuff like the Alaskas didn't. Is the problem. The Alaskas make sense initially when they're being designed, but also it just takes so long for them to get them. They were rendered pointless by time.
Yeah.
And also, especially when every other nation just didn't do it, and the fact that even the US Navy sort of went, let's just put them that way.
The Alaskas make sense in a world where the carrier is not the dominant force on the battlefield.
Very much so. I can agree with that.
As soon as doctrine, basically, as soon as Pearl Harbor takes the big gun doctrine and shunts it out the back door at Mach fuck, the Alaskas become
Okay. I want to push back on that, actually. Because if they'd been built by the Royal Navy for the war the Royal Navy was fighting, they would have been incredibly useful. In the war in the Atlantic and the war in the Mediterranean, they would have been very useful. They were just built for the US Navy in the Pacific, where they weren't much use.
To be fair, everyone was expecting, like, the US was actually predicting the Japanese were already building ships to replace the Congos that would need ships like these to counter. No one knew that the Japanese actually were not, and it was actually that B-65s were a response to the Alaskas, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And if you think about it that way, it makes sense. You don't want a 35-plus knot successor to the Congos running up on your carriers over the horizon, and you've not got something with the carriers that can basically go, right, run away, boys. Well, I'll put myself between this and the carriers. It's a stupid premise.
Too long to do it. Unfortunately, though, it then took them too long to actually do it.
But in the Alaska's defense, that was mainly because the war kicked off earlier than, the United States got dragged into the war earlier than they were hoping to, and if things had gone according to plan, trademark.
TM ruin us.
The Alaskas would have been ready for showtime.
Like, let's not forget how much steel the Essex-class swarm hoovered up.
Right, but I'm good. Right, let me raise the counterpoint then. That the Alaskas were not just about B-65. The Alaskas were also looked at to counter Deutschlands and Scharnhorst.
Which makes sense.
These are things in the 30s. It took them till almost 42 to lay this down.
Yeah, because they had to decide
They could have reasonably tried it a good few years earlier. If they were worried about this, they could have done it earlier, but chose not to. Which is why I say the decision to push it back is what makes them pointless.
Well, I'm gonna push back on that because
can I quickly?
Yeah, Fox has been trying to get a word in edgewise.
Edgeways.
And it's also when it comes to the carrier defense, which is their main use case. There's not much that they can't do anything the fast battleships can't do. Because I understand it, the South Dakotas and North Carolinas, a part of the reason they have such stupidly long range is because they were expected to run at high tempo with the carriers.
No.
And if your heavy escort for the carrier is a fast battleship, your 12-inch supercruiser is pointless.
I am going to... No. First of all, the reason that the US fast battleships have long range is nothing to do with the carriers. The whole point of that was to enable them to do long high-speed transits, regardless of what they were doing, under the presumption that they might have to go from Hawaii to the Philippines as quickly as possible because shit was hitting the fan and there was no time to bring oilers with them. It had nothing to do with working with the carriers. Secondly, in regards to what Dragon said, it's not that the Alaskas were pushed back, it's that if it's just dealing with the Deutschlands and things like the Scharnhorsts, A, the primary threat axis they have to get past to get to you is the British, and B, British and the French, who already have ships that can deal with them, and B, you're already building fast battleships anyway, so that's not much of a concern. But if you then look at the situation when the US gets the intelligence in 1940-41 that the Japanese are building a new class of fast warship that can easily outrun, unlike the Deutschlands, and the Scharnhorst are just not quite fast enough to easily outrun something like a 28 knot South Dakota. Would you let me finish? At that point, given that the primary antagonist for the USN in this period is seen as Japan, at that point, the argument becomes less of a thought exercise and more of a, we need these ships. Let's get the designs crystallized and get them laid down. Because at that point, nothing you have on order is going to fulfill that role in the way you want it. Even the Iowas, while yes, they can do the job, they're still not... that you don't want them pigeonholed into that role permanently because they have other things they need to be doing.
Okay.
Except no, Foxo, no. This one's mine. Apart from the fact that isn't how it went at all. The Alaskas start being looked at in the board. They look at the Alaskas earlier than this. The board officially was convened in 1938. It is explicitly described as a torturously slow process, constantly held back by basically foot dragging and almost attempted sabotage. Because we don't need this, really.
That's what I just
They
said.
do. It's not.
That is what
They
I just
look.
said.
They especially do look at Deutschlands and Scharnhorsts because they can do enough to be a problem.
No, that's
It's not just the carriers they're looking
that's
at here.
not
They're
what I
looking.
said.
Let him speak, Fleet. Go on, Dragon.
You're right. The fact they're looking at battle. That if you're worried about a super cruiser or a battle cruiser, you don't look at the Alaskas. Because what they were hearing was new battle cruisers. Which then does turn out to be the B-65, which again, as you did say, were created because, US are up to something. Considering that some of the Alaska designs start as a 6,000-ton Atlantis thing that it moves from, to a Baltimore carrying 6 12-inch guns, the process was horrific. They were then given funding in September 1940. They were only then allowed to lay down December 17th, 1941.
Everything you've just said lines up exactly with everything I just said.
No, it didn't.
Yes, it does.
Are you
completely.
sure about
Explicitly
that?
stated
Yes.
that they were a reaction to American intelligence about what we know as the B-65, whatever the fuck you called it.
Yes, but
Yeah,
you
this is
also...
As Dragons just established,
but you just completely
the
ignored
design
everything I said prior to that
criteria-
point.
no, yeah, but as Dragons just established, the program for them was started in 1938.
Yes, exactly.
Actually, the program, right, correction. What I said was they were looking at them before that. The Navy then only gave official, this must be done in 1938. They were looking back at as early as the early 30s at it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I said, there
Which-
wasn't
No,
really an impetus to move forward with
There
the program.
was, though, because they were looking at it and going, this is stuff we
But
do need to look at.
But
And
as
then
you-
again, the fact that it takes a year from you have got funding, start building, to actually being laid down.
that's not surprising at all. That's actually
It is.
normal. No, that is very normal considering they didn't have a finalized design at that point. And also, more to
They
the point,
did.
Yeah, but
also more to
Okay.
the point.
By 1940, they did have the design.
okay, so just to head back to the question, because
Yeah.
you're both following fucking woozles. The Alaskas, what became the Alaskas, was the criteria for them was set out before the fast battleships. So, as fast fleet units in context of the US Navy, where the capital ships are the standards, they have a very good reason to exist. Can we agree on that?
Well, yes, but that's not the...
Functionally, once the fast battleships come in, their use case is taken up by the fast battleships. Because the fast battleships did most of their war service as heavy carrier escorts.
Which, to be brutally honest, is likely what the Alaskas would also have just been used as.
Well, that's what they were used as.
So, in the context
Well-
of a US Navy who has built and is building more fast battleships, the Alaskas are pointless. When the criteria is set out, though, they do have a point to exist because the fast battleships don't exist. Can we agree on that?
Because
Wait.
it's also interesting that arguably,
I
if the Dutch actually had started design 1047, you might also have seen Alaska's prioritized more.
Possibly.
I can get where you're coming from, but I'm sorry, I can't agree.
That's fair.
Trying to move on though.
On lighter topics, what I wanted to put forward was the Inflexibles.
Oh.
They are pointless.
Yeah.
They're battle cruisers that aren't protected from the guns of the armored cruisers.
Yeah, no, yeah, we can all agree on that. The Inflexibles and Indefatigables, like, what were you thinking? Stop!
No.
Cease!
No. The Indefatigables make sense because A, they were dreadnought armored cruisers.
No.
That's what the Invincibles and the Indefatigables were meant to be.
Well, yes, but the Indefatigables have lost armor. Why?
Yeah, Indefatigable and Inflexible.
Like, they lost armor compared to the Invincibles. How do you do that?
Yeah, if the Invincibles make sense, they also make sense because nothing like them exists. when
Yeah,
they're
the
being
Invincibles are
built.
fine. It's just Indefatigable and Inflexible. How? How do you fuck that up?
Yeah, especially the thing is that they would make sense. The only other battle cruisers that weren't British that were being built were Blucher and the Blucheroids. But the Indefatigable and Inflexible are being built when everyone else is building battle cruisers.
Yeah, Von der Tan's on the slips, and then the British
Yeah.
know what she is.
And
Anyway.
we could...
Can we, before we go around in circles. Typical Gunner Officer asks, do you think the Harry Truman decision to fire or dismiss MacArthur in 1951 was the right call? Even though the decision would later bite Truman in the back politically and he would get a lot of criticism? Since when did that decision
It's still the right decision.
Since when did that decision bite Truman in the back? I don't think it was seen
And it
as right.
doesn't- Go
I
ahead, Fleetman. I'm going to jump in.
I don't recall that decision being wildly criticized or politically unpopular. Nor do I recall Truman getting any criticism for firing the person who wanted to turn into salt a portion of the planet to win a minor conflict.
There's also the small matter of Truman, MacArthur, deciding that he was God and directly violating the orders from Washington. So it doesn't matter what the political blowback was. It doesn't matter what the political cost was. It's the right decision to censure him to one degree or another. And when the degree of your fuck up is that an entire another country is brought in to a war that they weren't actively a part of, regardless of what aid they were sending the North Koreans before that time, you have fucked up severely enough to warrant, at a minimum, termination. So, yes,
MacArthur should be
Truman was
lucky.
100% justified and 100% in the right to can MacArthur.
Simple.
This
The
is
North Korean
not a
had about
question of
200,000 men left, and then suddenly a million men fled through the border.
And also politely...
For 5 times.
Yeah, and also politely, it just... MacArthur got lucky. Anyone else who tried that particular stunt would have been court-martialed and possibly put in front of a firing squad for disobeying orders that casually.
It's not quite treason. He might have gotten court-martialed and dishonorably discharged. But the problem is with the court-martial is that it turns into a very public spectacle. Whereas firing him, it's like,
Bugger
what
off.
are you going to do?
Yeah.
Impeach me? Like, cool. Impeach me for doing my job. I'd love to see how that trial goes.
Short answer, it didn't work.
So yeah, no, the firing of MacArthur is 100% justified and is a template of what we should expect from leadership, but rarely get.
Okay. 1931 asked, why has the Thonburi class coast defense ships HMTS Thonburi and HMTS Sia Adwa never had successors? If you're talking about direct successors, those were a victim of World War II. The small light cruiser that was supposed to be their supplement and the first of their successors being built in Italy was never finished for the Italian Navy or for the Thai Navy and was scrapped at the end of the conflict. But if you're talking about spiritual successes in the role of capital ships and flagships of the Thai Navy, then yes, they have had successors. The Thai Navy's carrier. Who is still a very capable helicopter operator.
What, a single helicopter?
No, she has a full air group. She has a full helicopter air group. She sails and exercises with it on a regular basis.
Or does she? Dun dun dun.
And of course, let's not
Indeed.
forget that the Thai Navy have received a new large combatant in the form of their new LPD they got.
Listen, all I know is that I'm having to do an unexpected and unplanned for motherboard replacement when I'm damn near flat broke.
Shit.
Rip.
Because the damn thing forgot how to work with memory.
Whoops.
And also, when I tried to unfuck it, I may have fucked it with a BIOS update.
Okay.
Oof.
Yeah, next question. Then we're going to officer. What is your opinion on the Kaplan medium tank? Do you think the Booker and the Chinese Type 15 are still better non-MBTs or light tanks than the Kaplan? Well, first of all, the Kaplan isn't a light tank. Let's put that out there.
You mean medium?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a light tank. It's a medium, and it's named that way
But
for...
he didn't say a light tank.
No, he said Kaplan
Yeah,
medium
because he calls it a
tank.
medium tank.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but he's
no.
comparing it to a bunch of light tanks.
Yeah, this is the thing. The reason it's called a medium tank is for a specific reason. It's the level of protection it has. It's not
It
quite...
speaks with the dead.
It's not an MBT, but it's resistant to things that a lot of light tanks are not. So, for example, it can resist things like 14.5mm rounds pretty much everywhere. And 30mm rounds from the front, which a lot of light tanks in service or considered cannot do. It's the whole purpose of the whole purpose of the vehicle is to be a relatively light but somewhat decently protected mobile fire support platform in areas where you can't take an MBT, but you want more protection than an IFV. It's the whole point of the thing.
We'll counter one thing here. Technically, it cannot resist 30mm unless it gets an upgrade package, which is not standard. They do not come with that capability by default, because they only have level 4. They come with a level 4 protection. Due to modularity, they can be upgraded to level 5, which does resist the 25s and 30s, but that is not as standard.
Fair enough, but the fact it can take it should still be counted for the vehicle's capabilities. Because it means you can...
I would
Yeah, but
count it if it's given it, which it's not. It's built for, but not built with.
But
If it's-
also,
if it's-
you... Right, give me a second. if you take the upgrade packages, the Centauro wheeled light tank is also resistant to the 35 mil.
Well, there we are then. There are other things that, like I said, there are certain other light tanks that have this capability as well.
So it's functionally a light tank. Because the Centauro can do it, that French one can do it. There's IFVs like the Bradley has packages that you can put on it that will protect it from 30 mil, 35 mil. So does Warrior with the additional composite screens. M10 Booker was supposed to be resistant to 35 mil.
It's definitely resistant to 30.
I would personally, I would say that if the exception is one way for a given fleet of vehicles, like, you know, it has the normally it has this package, then yeah, you can take that as standard that it has whatever given level of protection you're talking about. But if the exception, you know, so if normally it has the package, yeah, you can say it's protected to that level. If normally it doesn't have the package, then I don't think you can say it's protected to that level. Just because it can be fitted with a package to protect it against a given munition doesn't mean that it should be considered protected against that given munition.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I have the cleaner. Now where's the paste?
Okay,
But this
so
thing sort of sits in the quite healthy category of it's better than nothing.
yeah, like having a mobile protected 105mm gun is a good. There's a reason why we're seeing a lot of armies that can't afford MBTs reacquire light tank or light tank equivalents.
There's a reason the Wheelie Boys have come back.
Yes, speedy wheelie automobile. I'm gonna read this question aloud and then not say anything. I'm gonna open it to the floor because I have no
Miracle.
idea.
Everybody write it down.
I have no idea what this means.
Get thermal paste.
Bone Mill Boy asks, what if the USN, using Venezuela-level forces, intervenes against the Myanmarese Tata Madwa and return the NUG to power in a confederal arrangement with the minorities? How does this change things? If anyone knows what the fuck any of
I'm
that
assuming
means...
It's stuff probably that's happening in Myanmar. And basically, if the US
Basically,
go on, Martha.
if the US posed another Venezuela in Myanmar, Or at
Isn't
least
Myanmar
enforce it.
isn't Myanmar currently in a massive
War.
civil war right now?
Yes, it's in a
And,
multi-way
you know-
civil
Cool,
war.
you just made everything worse.
So Myanmar
much.
isn't in a civil war. Myanmar's got the issue of the central government has just lost control of significant portions of the country.
Which is arguably close
Now
enough. to-
run by their own localized government.
Which, to be fair,
they're
is
shooting at each other. It's a civil war.
Yeah, it's more of the state collapsed.
Which is
than
why
it is
this is
civil war.
stating. Which is why this is stating basically those groups are taken out and the government is returned to power.
because the thing is,
This is something to be solved by 20 Delta Force members. Simple as that.
yeah, no, if you do this in Myanmar, you just guarantee the civil war restarts as soon as you leave. These minorities do not want to be part of Myanmar. They want to be independent states. They don't want to be in a confederal arrangement. They want to be independent states.
Yeah, so culturally, a lot of people in northern Myanmar are much more culturally related and share their form of Buddhism with Tibetans than they do Pegu in the south. And
Either way.
are one state because of the British and the partition of the Raj.
Either way, it doesn't matter. The entire point is 20 Delta Force with 169 Stalkers is not going to change anything in Myanmar. You need a substantially larger force to influence anything over there.
Over there.
20 Delta Force snapping a guy in Myanmar is cool, I guess. We continue shooting at each other.
Unless you find after 20 Delta Force guys get the will highest kill, high score.
Yeah, good luck.
No.
Good luck with that
I-
particular kettle of fish.
And I don't think they would accept that.
Hang on.
You could probably pull that KD if you drop it in Space Marines.
Oh, that's why. Now I remember. La Flota de los Océanos asks, you can only make one change to Bern. What is the more pressing change? An all-turbine power plant instead of mixed turbine multiple expansion engines? Or changing the lift arrangement from 3 specialized lifts of differing sizes to 2 lifts of the largest type installed on her? 2 lifts of the largest type. The power
Yeah.
plant issue is...
Annoying, but
annoying, but she can, as was proven in her service, she can still launch and recover her aircraft. You give them 2 lifts of the largest type, that teaches the French the right lessons on flight deck management and hangar storage. They learn the right lessons of carrier operation.
As opposed to the left lessons?
Which is why you want the French to only equip her with the smallest lift possible.
No.
No.
Burn
Will
the
delay the
first
French
drone
advent.
carrier.
Will delay the French advent to carrierhood for as long as possible.
Knight 6831 asks, why do you still think the Carachuelo will still be 28 knots when they would have built to a revised 1919 design due to Jutland, and any 30s modernization has to fix their inadequate torpedo defense system, which is going to drop speed? Because they would not be built to a revised design if they were built. The Italians have no need to revise their ships post Jutland. They don't have any, like, there's no impetus here for them to do it. The British revised their ships post Jutland because, you know, they were actually fucking
They
there.
blew up.
But the Italians have no impetus at all to revise the Carachuelos when, in terms of belt protection, they're already equivalent to what are seen as the latest and greatest Royal Navy capital ships, the Queen Elizabeths, who already did an absolute stonking show at Jutland. They've also got a very fine hull form for capital ships of this period, so even if modernized in the 30s, if that modernization also includes machinery in addition to reworking their torpedo defense system / bulging them, then there's no reason they can't retain their 28 knot speed post rebuild. But again, my biggest point is they would not be revised. The Italians have no reason or impetus to do so. A lot of navies took lessons from Jutland. Very few of them actually revised their capital ships.
But, well, just looking at them, one of the things they probably would revise would be they've got that good armor belt. Doesn't cover much.
Yeah, they might increase the coverage of the armor
And it's
belt.
a
Maybe.
very shallow armor
Yeah.
belt.
Maybe. It depends.
And
But the primary point
you
is
see everyone shifting towards uniform armor belts after Jutland. The British do it, the French do it, the Americans do it. I think the Italians do it as well.
I
And
can't remember what question this was in reference to. If we're talking about these ships that, if we're talking about finishing Carachuelo herself, like, given how complete she is, you can't revise her if you want to finish her to any reasonable cost. You just have to accept the compromises of her design.
but if
you got
you
the point with the
are
torpedo
willing-
defense, though.
if you're willing to pay for it, you probably would want to revise her to actually have a good amount of belt coverage.
Maybe.
You might have a point with the torpedo defense, though.
Yes. No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Part of the reason her torpedo defense is so terrible is because of how shallow her belt is.
Well, yeah, I know, but my point is, if they start adding in bulges and stuff like that, 28 nut may be slightly difficult to acquire.
Not really. Not if they rebuild her machinery at the
I
same
said
time.
maybe.
There's a maybe in it. It's just no. It's a flat no. It won't be difficult at all.
Well, that depends on what the Italians
It-
are doing.
it
with their
will
rebuild,
be.
but,
It will be, right? She's a battlecruiser hull form. She's a very efficient hull form. As the Americans found out with the Lexingtons, even the smallest bit of bulging on that cylinder or form massively increases waterline below waterline drag. And because she was never built, we don't know the legalities of her hull. And given when they changed the shape of Hood's hull, they need for when they introduced the uniform 12-inch bell, she had a significant increase in water resistance from the fact that she was fatter underwater. So any changes to the armor speed, you are going to lose speed, no matter what.
Yeah. Right. I am going to read this question aloud, then I'm going to laugh hysterically for a little bit, and then I'm going to hand it off to the rest of the audience while I quickly take a check on something in the house quickly. Typical gunnery officer asks, do you think the ammunition stowage in the Tiger II's Henschel turret bustle is way ahead of its time, and the concept will be used in future MBTs with the bustle ammunition stowage? Oh, please, the Germans in World War II being ahead of their time, especially on something like this. Have you not been taking your Wearaboo pills, gunnery officer? Honestly, come on.
Fleet.
Okay, somebody explain to me what.
So
The
Tiger
Tiger
II stores
II
ammunition in the back of the turret.
Yeah.
Which is something that MBTs in the modern day do. So the question is, were the Germans ahead of the time? And the
Just
answer
to
is
slap
no.
fleet? Okay. Yes.
Oh, wait. Oh, Runon?
I would say in concept, yes. In execution, you kind of need some level of microelectronics and really good materials design to make it work.
No.
Well, no, they don't have any blow-up panels or anything. It is literally the concept of, let's put the ammunition in the turret because that's where the gun is.
And here's
Yes.
the fact
Did-
the T-34
No, wait a
did
sec,
that.
Foxo. Wait a sec, Fox. For the record, Runon, you did cut out at one point, then all of a sudden got a lot of audio through at one time, so...
You're still cutting
Did
out
you-
Oh,
technically.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why
So
I was
to-
thinking, it sounds like something here was missed.
Yes. In concept, yes, I would say they are ahead of their time. However, in order to make the concept actually work, you need a degree of microelectronics and a hell of a lot of structural / system / material engineering to make it work.
I would also like to make case in point, Hellcat had their
Yeah,
ammunition in turret. Jackson had their ammunition in the turret.
T-35 had its ammunition in the
Did-
turret.
It's
Did-
not the only one that does a bustle.
Back of turret.
Oh, there's rail tracks there.
IS-2 had part of the ammunition in the turret.
Right, no, right. Right. Are we just considering ammunition in the turret or ammunition stored in the back of the turret
In the back
this
of the
way?
turret.
Because a lot of these have ammunition in the turret, but it's along the sides of the turret, not necessarily in the back.
So in the back of the turret, where the loader doesn't have to move, the loader can just twist, pick up the round from a bustle in the back, move it forward into the breach. So that's nothing special. Because a lot of time have had that. You either, for ready use ammunition, you either store it in the turret basket or you store it in the back of the turret. Because that's the only way to reload quickly. If you're British, you put it in the turret basket below the turret ring. as you see on the Cromwells. If you're American, especially if you're playing with the 90 mils. No, actually, no, never mind. If you're American and you're the M10, you have it in the back of the turret.
The M36 also has that.
Yeah, and so does that.
Arguably, the M36 came out before the Tiger II Henschel turret.
Yeah, and the Hellcat came out before it significantly.
Although, granted, Hellcat ammunition storage is not at the back of the turret, it's right in front of the loader.
So I wouldn't technically class that then, because that's not technically what this is. I would, if it is not located directly at the back of the turret, that's technically not what this is referring to.
Wait, and I'm getting my Hellcat turrets mixed up. It's the which was the M36 turret that had.
That's the Jackson.
Yes. That doesn't count. That's the Jackson turret.
Yeah.
I apologize for interrupting with a non sequitur here, but there is a Dick's Sporting Goods that has been renamed to the Pickler.
Wow.
That's
and I find that absurd for some reason. And I don't know what to do with this information, but I'm sharing it with you in hope that maybe somebody will be wiser and tell me what to do with it. But we now have a Dick's called the Pickler.
Yeah, okay. So just back to the question quickly. Some models of the KV-1 got ammunition in the back of the turret, where the KV-1's pre-war having ammunition stored in racks at the back of the turret, alongside the KV-1S. So it was very much a thing before the Tiger II.
Fundamentally speaking, this is a development that many other different countries have came to and has started incorporating into their newer designs.
Yeah,
it's just the situation is that for Germany, King Tiger is technically the first one to apply this design too.
Yeah,
I say that didn't the Porsche turret. I thought the Porsche turret had their ammunition stored in Bustle as well.
No.
I thought
the Porsche turret has the radio at. Wait. No, it didn't.
Either way, though, I think we've debunked that one a bit.
I assume we've all had a good laugh at the at that question.
Well, it's not. I do think
really
you were kind of overstating about the German bit and the Werribee bit. I think that was unnecessary because the Germans actually were ahead in a fair few fields.
We're just stating that this is probably not one that is ahead of time, as demonstrated with certain other countries' armored vehicle having similar layout. But the King Tiger is definitely one of the first ones to do it. It's in the early induction list.
I know you don't like giving the Germans any credit, but the problem is, Fleet, you have swung too far the other way now.
No, it's not so much that. It's more just the whole premise of the paving the way for MBT's bit. It's like, no.
That's not what it said. It's and the concept would be used. It's not paving the way. It's just this was used in MBTs and the Tiger II. What do you think of it?
The idea didn't really catch on until much, much later. There was still a long period of first generation MPTs that doesn't have muscle turret.
Stating, it led to MBT.
But it's in the question. It's the Tiger II's Henschel turret bustle is way ahead of its time, which I think the Werribee is.
Yeah, but do you think the ammunition in the turret bustle is way ahead of its time? I wouldn't say that's Werribeeism, though. That's just a poor word choice.
That's the part that can quite be interpreted as.
I think that's once again going too far the other way against Germans
That's
like,
him asking our opinion. Do you think?
yeah, it's not aware it was.
Yeah, but I
it's
know
just
I'm not going off.
Mm.
It's once again, it's a very leading question.
I wouldn't say it's even leading. It's only leading if you read it in a leading way. Otherwise, it's just, what do you think of this? As MBTs use it later. Was it ahead of its time? As it is a thing that's sort of common on MBTs.
No. In short, no. No, it's not.
It's very. As I said, it depends how you read it.
Anyway,
And honestly-
96831 asks, this is a question for Foxo, but it's not an Azure Lane question.
Debatable.
Uh,
This can be done.
for Foxo, what is the whole Hood getting an extra 60,000 shaft horsepower from replacement of her engines?
Didn't we discuss? We discussed this the other day, as I recall.
What
Pretty
they're replacing
much the
1919
same.
engine with
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was-
1942 engine.
And it was because of the advancement in engine design, especially in boiler design, and the advent of large-scale insulation in the boilers and the piping. In the same machinery space, you could get high-pressure engines, and from what I've seen reading up on it about the continuation in battle cruiser development, they were looking at doing these any battle cruisers they built in the 20s would have much higher power density. And it also, from what I've seen, comes up again with their planned refits and rebuilds of Hood. Because Hood's whole
Basically-
form is built to be going faster.
Basically, engine efficiency got better in 30 years. Who
Chan-
knew that would happen?
And and it's also partially
Oh no.
because Hood was built to be able to whole form to accomplish 34 knots.
Knight is saying any Hood engine swap will need structural steel added.
A couple of tons of structural steel is not gonna change anything.
Also, Knight, thank you for moving the Azure Lane questions to Sunday. Thank you very much. Very
Yeah,
nice to me.
it-
Thank you.
Don't worry, Knight. Need more of them here as well.
No,
Fleet is not allowed to get out of this.
no, I am.
Okay.
I'm banning Azure Lane questions on my show. No, done. End of.
So predictions was that you'll need to add 200 to 300 tons of additional reinforcement to the engine room. This wouldn't be enough to meaningfully affect Hood's performance because her having her armor belt redone into a uniform 12-inch belt only lost her a couple of knots, 1 to 2 knots possibly.
Back in a few minutes.
And that was a lot more than 100 to 200 tons of work. Because they had to massively reinforce her entire rigging, specifically, to mount the additional armor belt. So, the hull's capable of it. It's just
This
money
is
and several years
this
of
is
work.
basically a comparison. You adding in a roll cage for your sports car, so oh no, it lost what, maybe 0.1 of a kilometer per hour top speed.
And in return, you're going from a 400 horsepower engine to a 600 horsepower engine.
It's irrelevant.
Yeah. Next question?
Yes. Chandler or
Next
Chandler?
question is gonna be Pan.
Yeah, I have no stake in this because I don't play Pokemon. Chandler, your favorite ship's ideal Pokemon team. You must choose 8 Pokemon, 6 active, 2 reserve, and at least a signature move for each of them. You can move to fill the 4 move slots if you wish, but I fear that as the question stands, this is going to take a while. I don't play Pokemon. I don't know what the
Okay.
Pokemons are. I know Pikachu exists, and it's funny.
No, I
electric
don't
rap.
think it's meaning literal Pokemon. from how I'm reading it, it seems like if ships were Pokemon, what ships
No?
would you have as your Pokemon, and what would them?
Well, they are in chat. What's the actual verdict? Do you mean?
The way I'm reading this question is saying your favorite ship Pokemon
yeah,
team.
that's what I read.
So
it as
Warspite's
well.
Pokemon team. I don't know what Warspite's Pokemon team would be. He's also not really answering.
Hmm.
Because I know what Midway's team would be.
Okay.
8 Sky Armories.
I don't know.
All with Aerial Ace.
I don't know Pokemon.
Just
Apart from
fuck you,
Pikachu.
fuck you, fuck you, fuck
I-
you,
I-
fuck you. I'm a
I-
Steel type. And I fly.
I know that the Pikachu exists and it's the funny electric rat, but I don't know anything more than that.
Hey, that rhymed. And as such, you've committed a crime.
So have you just now. Don't have a cow.
He doesn't seem to be replying.
Well, I mean,
Do we want to take the question in like a face value, or
I take it as
Don't
face
mind
value. I guess. I mean, how many more questions do I've got? Oh,
and
my-
obviously our problem is the fact that
oh
you need
my
to go
God.
all the way down into signature moves and stuff like that. It's like, let's not.
It's a good
Just
guess.
Naming 6
Actually,
Pokemon's annoying enough.
Like when
If
that
we're
like,
shooting ships are Pokemon, I know what my team would be.
also, how would you decide a favorite ship's Pokemon team? What would you even like? How would you even do that? Like a
Think of its
Maybe-
combat history and just sort of mix
Maybe
something
trainer
up.
archetype?
possibly.
Let's just put a cross on it and come back to it some other time when
Well,
he's here to explain what the hell's going on.
Yeah, we are done with. We are done with.
He still have a lot of questions, so let's not loiter around.
Typical Gunnery Officer asks, why did the M41 Bulldog in US service have a relatively short service life, unlike the M551? Do you think the M41 is a much better light tank and reconnaissance platform than the M551? Well, no, the M551 was arguably a better vehicle, but it's also not the same. The M41
It's
was
simple.
the US Army's light tank for general use. The US Army phased that role out. It no longer procured for that role after the M41 was retired, because they went, well, we can just do it with either MBTs or the newly emerging concept of the IFV or the APC or whatever. We can find different things to fulfill the role required. The Sheridan was a specifically airborne light tank designed to give true organic anti-tank and fire support capability to US airborne troops. It's not really a reconnaissance platform. It's not even really a light tank. It's a mobile 152mm gun. Yeah, it's a mobile 152mm gun, but most importantly, it's a mobile shillelagh launcher. That's the big
Basically.
thing Sheridan brings. It's a mobile fucking turret that can fire funny anti-tank missile and go burr.
It's a mobile gun system.
Yes. The M41 was not replaced because the US Army saw no need to replace it.
The M41's role was supplanted by the M113 ACAV.
Yeah.
They just have a Gavin to do the job.
And you don't need the big gun at that point, because at that point the M41, the whole point of the light reconnaissance role the M41 was doing was you don't get seen and you definitely don't start shooting at people.
Well, it's also the fact that when the IFB comes out, they just go, "Oh, we'll have a Bradley do it,"
Bradley.
and then we'll just put M1 Abrams in the unit as well. Hence, where you get stuff of the armor. Hence, where you
Yeah,
go.
Cav. But yeah, it's just
Yeah.
M41 was replaced by M113 ACAF with Dragon launchers.
Yeah.
Now, you could argue whether the Dragon is a good ATGM system. That's a completely different story, but it was replaced by a APC. The role still exists, just
Done by
The-
Bradley.
point of a actual tank is not relevant to the role.
And the Sheridan had a role outside of being a light tank, which was the airborne.
Yes, the Sheridan is throw that shit out the back of the plane.
Yeah, and because of that, when the US did need a light tank for specific operations, they kept him in reserve for an alternative use.
Not really.
Next question.
Yeah, you could be fine.
Okay, what's next? Oh, yeah. Hopefully we can plow through these questions relatively quickly, because dear God, there's a lot of them.
Good amount of the officer questions relatively straightforward, so it should be fine.
Chandler asks, what the full production capability for the Fairly Swordfish Mark 1 appears in Great Britain the day after the Battle of Jutland. How does this affect aeronaval developments post-war? Excuse me, the post-war? What's this post-war you're talking about? Whoa, whoa, whoa. You've literally handed the British aviation industry and the British Air Forces the most powerful strategic bomber, tactical bomber, naval bomber anywhere in the world? The Swordfish can
That
carry...
aviation,
The Swordfish can carry 4 250-pound bombs. That's a heavier bomb load than any heavier-than-aircraft extant at the time.
By quite a lot.
That wouldn't be equal until the Handley Page 0400s come in 1918, and the German Z Strakens on the other side. Even the German Gothas don't match that bomb load. Like, you've got an aircraft that can carry torpedoes, it can carry bombs, and it's also an out-of-context problem for most fighter aircraft. It cannot be caught. That is the difference in speed. Yeah, it's a biplane, but it's a biplane that is significantly quicker than its
Okay, and
contemporaries.
And just correct Brendan Larson. No, it's not the 6250s. That's a later model. The question has specified it's the Mark 1, which has either the 18-inch torpedo or the 4 250-pound bombs.
look, everything doesn't matter. What you did is you've given the British an aviation engine with 5 times more horsepower than a contemporary fighter.
Mhm.
You've given the British a 700 horsepower engine in World War One. Do you know how ridiculous that is?
Like, that's enough to, like, never mind the Fairly Swordfish being, a jack of all trades. The British, like, you do realise that Handley Page and Vickers have had planned strategic bombers since 1914. They've just not had an engine. Congratulations. They now have an engine to take an aircraft, 6 crew, and 2 tons of bombs to Berlin and back. So, yeah, expect bombing raids on Germany before the war ends. Significant numbers of bombing raids on Germany before the war ends.
And fighter design is going to change so quickly when you start putting a
Allies,
700 horsepower engine on a plane. Tri-fighters?
Okay.
That's a waste.
like the Allies,
Okay,
the Allies
right.
are going to win dominance of the skies by 1917 and just shatter the front by 1918.
But by 1950, 1960.
No, they arrive after Jutland, so...
Oh, right.
You're also going to have, obviously, to be fair, there's going to be issue with acquiring high quality fuel, but
Yeah.
hey,
What about all the infrastructure for them comes back?
It just says the infrastructure for full production capability, not fuel. But to be fair, even low-octane fuel, that still takes the engine to about 400 to 500 horsepower, which is still fucking ludicrous for World War One.
The engine's gonna hate you, and you're gonna have to rebuild that shit much more often than you think. But
still,
yes,
But I'm just post-war, especially Vickers and Hadley Page get their hands on them and do the bombing raids, and they're nowhere near as deadly as the math said they should be. That's going to massively neuter the power of people like Trenchard.
It would, were it not for the fact that evidence already existed. The German bombing raids on Britain.
Yes, but that was hand-waved away due to lack of mass and the use of Zeppelins.
No, I'm talking about the Gotha raids. The Gotha raids at their height were hitting London with 200 to 300 aircraft. Everyone forgets this. These were not small raids.
Yeah, but they were done by small aircraft, not carry particularly much.
When you get up to, let me have a look. I'm just gonna check how much the Gotha G5 actually carried. Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
big
so,
figures.
yeah, it's only carrying about 60 pounds of bombs, 14 25 kilo bombs. Yeah, it's not carrying much. Although the R planes are the big ones, though.
Another thing is, you're now giving the Royal Navy the ability to pull off their Wilhelmshaven strike.
I know, because you haven't built them the carrier yet.
I think the Swordfish doesn't need to be
it's
on
not
the
long enough range.
Yeah, but converting it.
It's still a single-engine carrier aircraft from the late 30s. It's not that. And we're talking specifically the Mark 1s here, not the late war ones. That had the additional wing fuel tanks.
Yeah.
It's one of those cases. You've got to remember that the Swordfish Mark 1 isn't the Swordfish you will think of.
Combat range of 840 kilometers.
Brandon, that's War Thunder. That's just War Thunder.
And also, that's a mid-war Swordfish.
That's Mark 3, isn't it? In War Thunder?
That's Mark 3.
Yeah, you do realise that it's only called the Mark 1 because they couldn't be bothered to put all the Swordfishes in the game, right? That's literally just a gameplay design choice. It's got nothing to do with reality. Don't use War Thunder as a mark of reality. Just don't. It's not a good look.
There's something Gaijin gets right. However, you can only count that on a couple hands, maybe. Next.
I'm going.
The Swordfish that have the really good range are the ASW Swordfish. And you can always tell them apart from the rest because their lower wings are made of aluminium, but the top ones are canvas.
Because they
if it's a full canvas, if it's got both canvas wings, it's a short range one.
Oh, do you want to tell them why the lower wings had metal coating?
Yeah, because for ASW purposes in the late war, the Swordfish was equipped with RP3s.
Yep. And they found that the wings couldn't survive the rocket launch if they weren't.
Well, it is why you don't want to put canvas behind a rocket motor.
No. Congratulations, our plane's on fire! Yay!
So
anyway.
they fitted aluminium to the bottom of the wings. That put a lot of stress on the wing. So they just went, okay, war shortages have come to an end. We'll just make the entire lower wing out of aluminium. They did.
Oh, just for reference quickly, because I just wanted to find it. The Arsenaken, the largest of the German bombers, of which they built about 18, they could carry 2 tons of bombs.
Yeah.
Which is, that's significant.
But they were never used on mass.
No, they only built about 56 of them total, and only 18 of them really big type. Anyway, so
and it's also, if you're, because I remember correctly, the Vickers designs for their strategic bombers were the 6 engine.
yes, which if you have 6 of
By
the
the end of the war, they could
Yeah.
carry 2 tons of bombs each.
6 engine Vickers bombers never actually saw the light of day. They never got an engine for them. It's things like the
Or am I
Vimy
thinking
and
of
the
Hadley
O4.
Page ones?
Yeah, no. None of the 6 engine bombers saw the light of day. Only the 2 engine bombers did.
Am I thinking of
0400,
the French one?
0400 and Vimy. Yeah, you're thinking of some of the French designs. The Italians had 3 engined bombers in the form of the Capronis. I like them in the wind rises, yay. Typical gunnery officer asks, question 9 relates to question 8. What if they...
Objection.
What do you mean objection?
Objection.
What
The
to?
Germans actually did. They had a number of 6-engine bomber prototypes that did actually fly.
No, I know. I know they do.
Some of them actually, I believe some of them actually, one of them I think was used.
Yeah, the R series. Yeah. I know. We're talking about British and...
No, I mean in Blumen Voss.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't talking about the Germans. I was talking about the...
We're talking about the British.
Yeah.
But so my point is
It's
that,
more just in case of the 6-engine thing in general, Foxo.
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's French Charles' justification on why it didn't work when they were when the Germans attacked Britain.
Oh, no, Foxo. I
was
stand
because
corrected.
none of the aircraft had relevant carrying capacity for more than 60 kilos.
Oh, Foxo, I'm sorry. I am wrong. The Handley Page V1500, I keep forgetting it exists.
Yeah, I thought it did.
I keep forgetting that bloody thing exists. Because it looks like a fucking bigger 0400, so I lump it in with the 0400s.
Yeah, I was right. Fucking hell. But
Anyway,
Next.
so my
Um,
point about it completely changing how Air Forces develop is
Oh, completely valid.
because a part of Trent Charles' justification why it didn't work in the first book was it was never in mass. If the RAF, might be the RAF, if there's actual proper strategic aviation, might get formed earlier, but if strategic aviation happened in World War One with significant mass, which the British would be capable of doing, and has nowhere near the effects people like Trenchard says it would do, you probably don't see strategic aviation as we think of it taking off, which massively changes how air forces fight.
Yeah.
And you don't get the RAF being built around Bomber Command, which is so many butterflies it. There's a good chance you get an RAF that's set up like the Luftwaffe.
Yeah.
For tactical aviation.
Yes. Right. Next question. Typical gunnery officer asks, related to question 8, what if they cancelled the M551 Sheridan and opted for longer serves of the M41 instead? Would the M41 have had an upgrade to its fire control, range finding, and stabilizers, not to mention a better gun? As we said, the M551 was not an M41 replacement. They were entirely separate programs to do entirely separate jobs. The M41 survived in other armies that used it and had saw upgrades of the like you are referring to. So, real world examples of long serving Walker Bulldogs do exist. The Brazilian Walker Bulldogs, the Danish Walker Bulldogs, the Republic of China's Walker Bulldogs. I'll call that nation Taiwan when I'm buried in the
Better on the
ground.
Republic of Germany's Walker Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Look, it's very simple. The day the US is keeping M41s as their light tanks is the day they have the capability to throw an M41 out the back of a plane.
Which was never going to be a thing. The bloody thing's
Well,
too heavy.
No, it is a thing. It's just by that stage, they could throw an Abram out the back of a plane. So why would you have an M41?
Although we are talking here about not the...
Not the...
Never mind. It's fine. Anyway, typical gunnery officer asks, in the latest configuration of Stage and BTs, they have multiple different sensor suites, APS, optics on the external parts of a tank. What would happen if a stray mortar or artillery round landed near or very close to the tank and knocks out one of these systems since they're all packed outside? What kind of redundancy do they have to still be in the fight? I mean, I will refer you to the answer that the chieftain gave on the big Ramblings 4-year anniversary when we talked about this, about being direct hitted or near missed by artillery. You bug out. If your vehicle is still mobile, you bug the vehicle out to the rear. If you've lost your optics, no, I'm sorry, that's it. You are, no. You can fight if you're in action without some of your advanced sensors. You cannot fight without your basic bare bones optics, because they are the things that you fall back on if everything else fails, and that you use all the time. If your optics are gone, you can't fight the tank.
Yeah, and if you're being hit hard enough to get rid of stuff like the upper optics of the hull to kind of knock them out, there's a good chance if you hit the roof that hard, you kill some of the crew. So you're pulling out anyway.
Basically, the damage you have described involves getting a direct hit by a 155 howitzer. No tank is going to enjoy getting hit by a 155 howitzer, and no tank in any of their right mind is going to continue pushing forward after getting hit by a 155 itchy shell.
Channel Lord Chandel asks... Good here, actually. Channel Lord Chandel asks... Fleet, thoughts on the new Azure Lane ship goals for the Sardegna Empire? Requested by Dr. Clark because he had to suffer. I have looked them up just now. You want to know my honest opinion? Anime goals exist, I guess.
Right thoughts.
I just... That's my only... Like I say, I don't play Azure Lane. I don't follow it. It's literally just...
I don't like it.
They exist, I guess. That's literally the extent of my thoughts. I'm sorry to say.
Have you not seen Caratello?
I think so. Just it's still the same. My thoughts doesn't really change.
The one where she really should put some clothes on.
Oh, again, I don't really...
That's why I prefer Contact Collection.
Brandon Larson asked, the year is 1800 and you, the panel, have been asked to design a heavy first rate for the Royal Navy, USN, Spanish Navy, and French Navy. What is your design and how many do you build? I copy Victory, make her more rigid, and then just build more of her. That's literally all you need to do to build a first-class heavy first rate. Because that gives you a heavy first rate that's fast, tough, and very heavily armed. Like, I'm sorry, but there's a reason why, despite Victory being an old ship, she was picked as the lineage for the Royal Navy's wartime first rates.
I'm currently laughing at the fact that the Congress would give the USN enough money to build a first rate.
It doesn't matter which navy we're building them for. That design is the ideal design for any of the navies. It has the speed the French want. It has the toughness the Royal Navy wants. It has the speed and maneuverability and firepower the USN wants. And it's a decent first rate, which is all the Spanish Navy is bloody crying out for.
Yeah, but the greater issue with first rates is they were in production for so long that, for the tech of the time, pretty much everyone was getting the best they could out of them.
Yeah.
It's not like World War I or World War II era ship where tech's changing rapidly.
Yeah, the reason I picked Victory is because she is, with her speed, she is a standout above a normal first rate. She has a little something extra that makes her advantageable. But you compare any of the normal first rates that aren't Victory between Britain, France, and Spain, because the US had one that was a weird thing. They're all very similar. We need Dragon. We need Dragon for the next one.
Because Iron Cannon is Iron Cannon.
Yeah.
I have been, ever since I objected to you earlier, I have actually been here. I've just been cooking, so.
Good, because we need you, because the carrier's coming up.
The carrier?
The carrier. The Sayonara, Sayatara, Saya McGuffin McMuffin 5000 carrier.
Pose the damn question.
Channel asks, Dragon, thoughts on the Sayatara carrier added in Thrawn's Revenge 3.5 as a diplomatic reward for the Empire of the Hand. Excuse me.
It's a ship I always thought should have been a ship, because previously it was a space station. Apparently still is a space station, depending on which version you get. But it's a good-looking ship overall. It's got decent weaponry from what I can see. Its actual capacity is not bad. Yeah, it's a ship I've always said should have been a ship, not a station. And it seems the team kind of agreed with me.
Next.
More hosting, I think.
What are you cooking?
Gochujang. Or in particular, gochujang beef. Uses gochujang paste, hoisin sauce, beef, pepper, and garlic.
Okay.
Well, a few times I actually do deal with garlic.
Garlic is fine.
Combine that with some nice bread with cheese, and it's really good.
Okay, next question. We're nearly there, I think. Yes, we are nearly there. Oh, my sweet Jesus.
Can't be that bad. Come on.
It's not bad, it's just, good God, it's a long one.
No, that's fine. Come on.
Handlord Channel asks, yet another Star Wars question. Congratulations, Vice Admiral. You were in charge of developing a successor to the Rendeli Star Drive Dreadnought class heavy cruiser. The vessel must be between 600 and 850 meters long, a speed of 15 mgtl minimum, at least a class 2 hyperdrive, be well protected, at least 15 turbo laser batteries, 5 ion cannon batteries, and adequate anti-starcraft defenses. It must carry a squadron of fighters, more desirable and logistics crafts. Onboard troop confluence are wished for but can be dispensed with, an endurance of 3 years and a crew of less than 9,000. You must design one of these vessels for the Imperial Navy, pointing at the Vindicator and later Enforcer doesn't count. And the Alliance to the Restore the Republic Navy, again, do not point to the Assault Frigates or the Dauntless class, the Hapan Royal Navy, and the Chiss Navy. Yet again, don't point at the Italy Fanon, Nignos class picket ship, and the Huts. Good luck, Admiral. That is well outside of my wheelhouse. That is more Star Wars knowledge than I have. The only person with that level of Star Wars knowledge is Dragon.
And he's cooking.
That's just well outside of my level.
You've dealt with all of these. If not,
what?
You have actually fought all of these ships that he mentioned.
Yes, but I don't know how to design. I don't know what a fucking class 2 hyperdrive is. I don't know what fucking
He doesn't know the
MTGL
industry
means.
details.
No, I
You know
don't.
what the class 2 hyperdrive means?
No, I
Because
don't.
we've discussed them.
I don't have a
And
fucking clue what it means.
MTGL is just a form of gravity acceleration.
Why? And also, he says I can't point at the obvious ships that you would obviously point to because they already exist. I'm not going to go away and...
Thing is, and that's exactly what I'm going to point to, because it's what you're going to get.
Yeah, like, I can't go away and... Like, what does he want me to do? Go away and design...
Right. Now, give me a...
I don't get what
He
you
is
want
fine.
from me. It's not so much saving it for Monday, Chandelord. It's just you've literally taken the options that I would have to go to give some sort of visual indication to what I'm going to build, and also, quite frankly, that are literally what you build. So I don't know where to go.
Like I said, come back to it in a few minutes once I'm back upstairs. And I can actually try and give a reasonable answer.
I mean, there's nothing really to...
Just move on for now.
Fleet sounds like he needs the 75mm PKV can for M/43,
No.
firing SLPGR M/43.
Okay, gunnery officer, quickfire round.
Let's go.
Go, go, Power Rangers. I'm gonna follow the soon.
Gunnery officer, question 11. Do you think USS Norton Sound is a better missile, sensor, or radar test bed, ship, or test platform than the HMS Girdle Ness? Since Norton had multiple different systems and weaponry installed during her service, honestly, it doesn't fucking matter. They're both test ships. They test what they want to test. They don't test what they don't test. It's not a case of being better or worse. Test ships are not a case of better or worse. You just slap on them what you're testing, and then you take off what you're not testing. Simple as that. Question 12. Do you think the US Army decision to keep the Bradley in service and not rushing with the XM30s because of the experience of the Ajax AFV with the British Army, and that they make sure they get everything they want right for the next US IFV? Ajax is not equivalent to basically any other procurement process in the world today because of the weird warped nonsense that the British procurement has done to that bloody thing, and the weird warp
Puma.
and the weird warp.
Puma's in the same boat.
Either way,
I thought the XM30 project started before the Ajax program,
yeah,
so you know,
either
I don't
way,
think that has that much influence on it.
Either way, the USA keeping the Bradley in service, it's not really related to any of that. It's also just the Bradley is still perfectly combat capable. It's still arguably the world-beating IFV, even today.
Bradley?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing.
There are much better options than Bradley by now.
What? Name one.
Puma.
Puma, CV90s.
CV90 is not better than Bradley.
There's a lot of European designs that is newer and more modern than the Bradley as a design.
Yes,
Bradley is
better.
Bradley is great 20 years ago, but it is getting long in its tooth. That's why they are replacing it. To say that it's still the best choice is not.
I didn't say it was the best choice. I said it was the best. Because it still is.
It's not the best.
It is. Puma's,
It's clearly not the best.
CV90.
It's adequate.
CV90 is up there, but it's still not as good as Bradley. The Puma is definitely not as good. Definitely not as good as Bradley.
Both of them have better protection schemes than the Bradley.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both of them has better firepower than the Bradley.
I'm gonna disagree with that. They don't have the same.
The Puma's much better than Bradley. Firepower-wise, especially.
If you're attempting to argue that something 20 years older than most of the things we've listed is still better.
I am, because it is. The Bushmaster cannon is still one of the world-beating IFV cannons. The TOW missile and the TOW 2 are still very good missiles.
It's good. It's not the best.
It's the combination
It's
of all.
sufficient and adequate.
It's the combination of
Adequate. Adequate and best does not go together.
Yeah. So the issue that Bradley has is that it's an aging hull. And the A3s are good, but they're at the limits of what they can do with the Bradley chassis.
That I will absolutely agree with, and I'm not denying that.
Yeah. However, the vehicles like the Puma you're right. When the Puma first came out in 2010, you could argue that it was equivalent to a Bradley. But now it's been through its improvement. Now it's equipping stuff like Spike. It's a next generation IFA.
All right.
And the A3s can keep up, but their next upgrade package on Puma is going to put Puma significantly further above it. If you take what stuff like the BMPT can do on paper, claim stats on paper, it's better than a Bradley. Or claim stats on paper, not the actual shit boxes they're made. Yeah. And box and CV90 are the same. They're just next generation hulls, next generation equipment. built for stuff like Fire and Forget and unmanned turrets. Yeah. There's sort of a reason the US wants to replace the Bradley. They just will never be able to. That would cost money.
The project is still ongoing pretty decently so far, so a Bradley replacement is it's fairly viable because it costs money, but it's not going to cost ridiculous amount of money that the U.S. Navy seems to be constantly doing with their new projects.
Yeah.
Honestly, Army vehicle replacement is probably by far the most likely stuff to get through Congress because usually they're not in the eye-watering level of budgets.
I mean, as long as you don't ask Stingray or Booker that.
Yeah, but that's just down to the U.S. Army not finalizing their force building. They can't figure out what they want to do with their unit organization.
Yeah.
So that's a different story.
I don't think they're going to get funding or the will to replace Bradley until Bradley starts getting slapped around.
We'll see.
Because
So
any
far-
new IFV is going to be compared to the A3 Bradley. And the A3 Bradley's a bloody good IFV.
We'll see. So far, there's two contenders. It's it's interesting choice. One's basically a Booker with a 50 mil turret instead of the 105.
Yeah. Anyway,
And
the
then
final.
yeah, sure.
The final
go for
thing
it.
is Operation Eagle Claw. Do you think it was flawed to fail from the beginning and built to fail? Not to mention the nature factor when the sandstorm hits the helicopters. How would you draw up an Iranian hostage rescue operation that works? I would argue you fundamentally can't do that latter thing. That you can't draw up an operation that works all the time. That's just not the way operations like that go. And in regards to being built to fail, obviously it was flawed like a lot of these operations are, but then again, it's not surprising given the nature of the situation it was put together in. But in regards to being built to fail, I would be very, very careful about saying that about an operation where people died.
Don't even. You can argue some operations are built to fail. Because power politics be like that. But specifically, Eagle Claw was to rescue 53 embassy staff held captive in Iran. An embassy siege. It was an operation where they had to try something. Like, America couldn't just do nothing.
It's a desperate plan, but it's a desperate situation.
Yeah.
And something went wrong in a desperate plan, and the recovery was not,
It's one of those cases of the US said, fuck it, we ball. Sometimes when you say that, you, against all the odds, succeed. Sometimes you fail spectacularly.
I would say correction. Most of the time, you fail spectacularly. Sometimes you succeed in ways you would never expect.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm going to go back now to the Star Wars question. Dragon, do you want it linking to you, or have you seen it? I don't want to reread it again.
Give me just a moment.
Now I'll sit here for 30 minutes.
Yes, while Dragon reads the question, then gives his answer, because we promised we would.
No, it's actually quite simple. So if you can't do a Vindicator design, you do something bigger. You do something, I would say, go with a 700-meter hull, so that you're in between that of the original Dreadnought and the Victory. Go with a mixed array of twin and single turbo lasers, preferably see if we can fit in a couple of single heavies. Get a whole bunch of light ion cannons, I think would be an excellent choice. Maybe a couple of medium ions. Ideally, actually, I want to see if I can fit a class 1 in for the hyperdrive. which that extra room might give us with the enhanced reactor. Try and go for 2.5, 3 squadrons of fighters, so a total of 36. Very little ground garrison, though. This I would make the ship almost purely space to space, because that's what we need. 3 years of endurance is a bit huge, but can be worked with. It will have onboard troops, just not many, because it's in that bit. 5 ion batteries is easy. Adequate anti-strike, you just go with a large number of quad anti-fighter lasers, like you see on the Lancers, for instance. That's basically what you do.
And the one for the Republic, and the one for the Hapan Royal Navy, and the one for the Chiss Navy, and the one for the Huts.
The Hapans don't have a hope in hell. The Chiss actually, basically, you're doing the same, but now with mega masers, and you will be probably mounting a number of breacher missiles and plasma spheres. The Huts have no hope in hell. The Alliance to Restore the Republic, they don't really. You've got some of them on calamari stuff, but beyond that, you're not getting something really like this because this vessel doesn't suit their needs.
Mm-hmm.
To be brutal.
Unless they nick one.
Mhm.
The only way they're getting one is they nick one. It's the fucking rebels.
Yeah.
They're good at nicking shit.
Yeah, true. Typical officer asks, do you think the US will integrate Javelin on the Bradley or the next IFE since TOW lacks fire and forget ability? We'll see.
Interestingly, there is they've not been adopted yet, but there is several versions of TOW that have been converted to fire and forget.
And to be fair, I don't think Javelin would be the first missile the US would be looking at.
Yeah, too short range.
They probably find some way to strap a Hellfire rack onto the XM30 before stuffing a Javelin on.
Yeah. Brandon Larson asks, the year is 2541. You're in charge of a UNSC fleet consisting of 1 Punic-class supercarriers, 4 Epoch-class heavy carriers, 8 Orion-class assault carriers, 4 Valiant-class super heavy cruisers, 4 Marathon-class heavy cruisers, 30 Halberd-class destroyers, 40 Paris-class heavy frigates, and 60 Charon and Stalwart-class light frigates. You are tasked with securing 6 systems in the outer colonies. What is your strategy, and how do you deploy your forces?
Ooh.
I am not a Halo guy. I don't know Halo.
Peacetime or
It's
wartime?
It's 2541, I'm pretty sure. War or post-war. Double check stuff in a sec.
Halo has FTL communications. You set up shop in the most heavily developed system, and you form as a fleeting being. Should enemy planets call for it, you come.
It's an interesting fleet, but the issue is I'm unsure whether if...
That is a significant commitment of forces to see 6 systems.
Well, yeah, because whatever is coming is most likely a force that will knock this about halfway through Tuesday.
Right. Likely you form groups around your epochs, would answer.
You keep it concentrated, and
Nope.
you use the less developed systems as a plate of armor if you're in the
Nope.
Covenant War.
Because you're meant to secure them.
That's going to be the hard part.
And in peacetime, with the heavy forces, the UNSC's heavy forces act as a fleeted being against ships that went rogue or were captured.
So this is wartime.
In wartime, you concentrate. That's your only chance in hell of actually fending off a force.
It's going to be rough because...
But you're not going to secure, is the problem.
Yeah.
Okay, you've got
Then
ground
in that
forces
case-
that are securing, and you've got FTL communications. You secure it by when they jump into this system. If it's a force that you think you can fight, you go and fight it. If it's a force you don't think you can fight, you do the pragmatic option that the UNSC did
Well-
a lot, which was you don't fight.
Yes. So then you have the Punic, the Epochs, and most of the Orions all together in one group. You keep the Valiants together. You probably let the Marathons be command ships, though. Because you want a concentrated force and then a number of smaller forces that can book it if they have to, but can still secure as needed. Give each one of them an Orion, so you have 4 separate smaller task forces, each one a Marathon, and then give them an amount of Parises and Stalbots. Maybe a few of the Halberds. Then the rest you keep concentrated in one big group that can punch someone in the face if they try something.
Try to defeat in detail, in essence. You could try Napoleon your way out of this.
The whole thing of I want glass is going to happen if the Covenant comes to a secure system? Not really. Because they don't glass every planet they encounter. Only ones that put up too much resistance, usually.
Basically, it's only if they feel insulted, they go, right, okay, fuck you then.
Looking at you,
Drop a
Reach.
Forerunner artifact in every single planet.
But it's
They won't glass any of them.
and they're quite happy to glass if not glassing means they lose the planetary assault. Because of the way the Covenant structured, they can't afford to not take a planet.
Taking is better than destroying.
As we know from the Admiral Cole novels, if you're not a major industrial center with fleet anchorages, you're ablative army. You're ablative armor for the industrialized planets with the fleet anchorages.
That's why I'm suggesting having these smaller forces, and then you've got the big punch fleet. Because then you have the capability of, depending on the size of the Covenant task force, if you can beat it, murder it. If not, run.
It's sort of one of the cases of. It's why I say you could keep the entire thing concentrated, because as long as you're not talking about the core world here, because the core world, 6 core world is actually a fucking lot. And it's on the outer rim, so it won't be core world. Core world is in value, unless it's a very specific set of worlds. Which, if a Punic's been classed as Defender, it's going to be one of those. If the Force is one that you can beat, when the planet sends you the info of what's jumped in, you jump out to meet it. If it's not something you can beat, you don't. I would take a doctrine, basically the High Teeth Fleet interprets what I want to do. For as long as possible, deny fighting a force that you can't beat one-on-one. And if that means losing 5 or 6 worlds, lose 5 or 6 worlds. The ships are more valuable.
Especially that Punic. That Punic is not going to be allowed to die.
Yeah.
No. That Punic goes away, even if.
To be honest, you might even also run with the Epochs.
Yeah. An Epoch is more valuable than a planet, especially towards the latter half of the Covenant War.
This is about halfway.
yeah.
Well, this is just over halfway through because what's it called? 2145 was it? Double checking. Yeah, 2541. Sorry, which is 11 years before the end of the war. Because that's 2552. So by this point, humanity has been fighting for what, 17 years? 16 years, sorry, even.
They still got some punching power, but
But you're not to the point you're down to the inner colonies yet. But you're to the point where you're seriously
close.
using the outer colonies as ablative armor. You're not actually trying to defend them much. which
Because this
That-
would actually be during the period of the Inner Colonies push, Foxo, where they're actively trying to stab at the heart.
which means that if you're still in the outer colonies and this fleet is defending something in the outer colonies, it's defending one of the few important worlds in the outer colonies. And it means you're probably also cut off from resupply.
This is also 2 years after Admiral Cole's supposed death.
Yeah.
Actually, is it? No, 2 years before, so we've still got Cole.
Okay. So, next question. Typical officer, do you think the Russians copied the aesthetics of the YF-23 for their Su-57? No, not at all. Not even remotely. This is no. Next question. Admiral Wellesley, in a world without missiles, do you think we'd see nuclear-powered, primarily gun-armed ships? Well, you'd have some nuclear-driven combatants, obviously, but you'd still have nuclear carriers. You'd still have guided munitions. You say you've removed missiles. That's not removed things like... You've not said you haven't removed guidance packages or computerization or anything like that. So, glide bombs exist. So you'll still have standoff munitions. And the heavyweight wire-guided torpedo still exists. So you'll still have terrifying attack submarines.
By some definitions, you wouldn't get either of them. Then again, if you get rid of missiles, technically, you could argue that you end up with nuclear-powered ramming ships.
Well, yes, but also even if you get rid of guidance packages or anything like that, and you're stuck with just basic fire control as we know it at the end of the Second World War, that still leaves the carrier as the dominant naval strike asset, and that still leaves the nuclear attack submarine to become this terrifying thing that just can't be fucking dealt with. Because even with dumb fire, even with dumb torpedoes, I mean, as USS Nautilus proved in exercise, if you don't have standoff munitions like ASROC, which you wouldn't have if you don't have missiles, because ASROC is a semi-guided munition, you wouldn't have something like ASROC. The best thing you'd have would be mortars, rocket mortars, which are basically just, oh, the nuclear sub has already fired at us, we're already dead, let's try and kill it before it gets away, which, good luck. What it basically means is that nuclear submarines can just charge in loose torpedoes and just laugh hysterically as they run away at like 30 knots. And you can do sweet bugger all to kill them.
Unless you go with my interpretation and definition of the word missile, in which case submarines and carriers become because missile...
Your term of missile is remove all projectiles from equation.
Yeah, because that's what missile means. Missile is the correct term for a projectile.
She is correct.
Which means gun gets thrown out the window.
Yes, which means you get nuclear-powered icebreakers ramming each other.
It's hard to... Actually, it's technically hard to proclaim a torpedo as a missile.
Yeah, is this a projectile you launched?
Not really. I think we're getting into some very, very minute argument about what a projectile is, but I do find it interesting going back into medieval naval warfare, except with steel ship boarding and a lot of sword fighting. Or the Roman style, you ram things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just next.
Wait. Nuclear, so without missiles.
What did I miss?
Not much. Without
Nothing.
missiles.
Just moving on to the next question. As he's scrolling down the list.
And this is the last question. Oh wow, we actually made it on time for once. I wasn't sure we were going to, but I made it on time. Le Flotos de los Oceanos. Oh, sorry, Channel. Gets me every time. Asks, is Temeraire Foxo's favourite ship name to serve for the RN?
One of three.
One of three. Where are the other two?
HMS Conqueror.
Temeraire, Conqueror.
And I was still Clifford Edition. HMS Gay.
Yeah. I like that name as cool.
Because they tend to be in Royal Navy service smaller and unrated ships from major sail. And they just tend to be very good ships. And it's one of those cases of long before gay became synonymous for homosexual.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I just got a slightly passive-aggressive message from Dr. Clark that I think I was away with when he finished talking up about it. The cavitation noise of a submarine going 30 knots means that people will be listening to it on the other side of the world.
Indeed.
could see that.
Yes. So I'm just going to very quickly address this. Vulnerable, yes, there would still be helos, but in the world I was talking about. But I'm sorry, but the helos have dumb depth charges in a world without guidance for anything, which is good luck trying to actually hurt a nuclear submarine that's moving at 30 knots. Yeah, you'll hear it. Yeah, you'll hear it, but good luck actually being where it is.
Actually, here's a thought. You would see a mass adoption of nuclear weapons.
Oh yeah, you'd have to get nuclear depth charges and stuff.
Because a nuclear submarine doing 30 knots is scary until you drop a 3 megaton nuclear depth charge, and it just goes,
It
I
doesn't
am
need to be
dead.
megaton. It needs to be kilotons. Megatons is too much.
Yeah,
Talking kiloton
megatons,
range, but...
high amount of kilotons.
No.
And basically,
no.
the entire world's fish supply goes
Yeah, not fun.
tits up.
But it's a case of, without conventional means of killing nuclear submarines, they just get nuked.
Well, yeah.
Which
You can't get
was the
precision, so you
response-
go for area effect.
Yeah, which was the response for a lot of Cold War navies if the Cold War ever went hotter. Oh, we just started throwing nuclear weapons around to hunt submarines.
I mean, actually, that's a pretty decent way of thinking about it. It's just that's the world where the 1950s never progress.
Nuclear weapons still miniaturize, so you just probably get aircraft like the Buccaneers sticking around or just lobbing some nuclear bombs at people.
Nuclear weapon miniaturized, computer system rises and becomes more accurate. Finding things become pretty on point in terms of how it went. It's just the way of killing things becomes drop more nukes. Oh man, that would mean a stupidly massive fleet of strategic bombers.
Yeah. I think it'd be the US Air Force's wet dream.
Oh yeah.
Because it wouldn't be a triad, it would be a duad at most. Actually, no, it would just be the USN. Because if you take out guidance, you take out the ACBMs.
Well, ICBM is still a missile.
Yeah.
So ICBM is just outright banned, even if it has guidance.
Or you might see spaceborne nuclear weapons toward the end of the Cold War. Put them in orbit and then drop them from orbit.
Or we'll drop nuclear weapons.
What, the based version of Rods from God?
Yeah. Anyway,
Except nuclear
so
warhead.
thank you everyone for coming. I hope you've all enjoyed. I would like to see Dragon Fox or Moe in the Fleets mod chat quickly after this. I do have a few things I want to discuss going forwards. A few new ideas I want to run by you before we move into the Friday game night. For those of you on YouTube, for those of you on Discord, thank you so much for watching, folks. It's a pleasure to have you as always. I'll hopefully see you, those of you who are Twitch enjoyers, tomorrow and Sunday. And for those of you who are YouTube enjoyers only, I'll see you on